Waking up in your own web novel? Crazy. But spawning as a trash tier extra in a legendary mage bloodline? Absolutely brutal. This dude is hard-coded to get exiled at 17 and wiped out. But here is the massive plot twist. He literally wrote the script. Armed with creator-level spoilers and completely broken cheat skills, he is dodging his own execution. Imagine boxing a boss who already memorized your entire moveset. He is about to be invincible. 3 whole days have passed, and his mind is still glitching. Getting dragged, kicking, and screaming into your own fiction? That classic isekai possession trope is real. You only see this madness in fantasy webtoons. He never expected to become the main character of one. Dragging himself out of bed, he muttered, still stuck in this meat suit. He gripped his flabby stomach, pure cringe. Staring into the mirror, he scoffed. This tragic reflection was impossible to accept. Rubbing his eyes did absolutely nothing. Suddenly, a glowing blue system panel materialized right in thin air. It flashed his raw stats. Name, Larson Mighton. Innate talent, magical combat arts. Base stats, completely chaotic. The devastating truth hit him: he actually hijacked his own creation. This stepping stone extra was destined to be slaughtered by his own siblings in 9 years. Day 1 hit hard. He bolted upright, screaming about work schedules. Instantly, the terrified maid beside his bed shrieked, sobbing massive apologies. She violently shook like a leaf, dropping straight to her knees in pure panic. Begging for her life, she claimed absolute treason. Utterly confused, our guy slid to the bed's edge. Who even is she? Her features were a total mystery, neither Korean nor Western. He clumsily said sorry and asked for his location. The poor girl just slammed her forehead into the floor, wailing about, disturbing his slumber. She desperately prayed he wouldn't chop her head off. Have mercy. Completely baffled, he panicked, asking if she was hurt, and extended a helping hand. She shrieked like he held a blade. He merely stepped forward, but her soul left her body. She instantly blacked out. That was day 1. Honestly, the vibes were totally ruined. But then, day 2 rolled around. Chilling on his bed, he glared at the holographic UI. Goodbye, Cha Sung-min. Hello, Larson. That morning brought a visitor, a kid named Hampton, who bowed deeply and announced his diary-keeping duties. Hampton, huh? A diary? Larson asked. The boy nodded aggressively, promising a speed run of the daily logs. As Hampton scribbled away, Larson stepped closer. A hidden memory suddenly unlocked in his brain. Elite noble heirs get 0 privacy. Servants practically stalk them to document every single breath. This surveillance nightmare starts at age 14. Suddenly, noticing Larson lurking, Hampton shrieked, exploding ink everywhere. Trembling violently, the kid sputtered apologies, frantically promising to scrub the mess instantly. But then, Hampton stared in horror at Larson's knee, launching straight at his face. Larson's body moved on pure autopilot. Muscle memory demanded violence. He froze, inches from the terrified boy, realizing this trash personality was hardwired into his very DNA. As day 2 wrapped up, Larson's dark history began flooding his mind. A flashback hit hard back at age 4. This menace used a wooden toy to absolutely obliterate his own servants. Hampton was one of those victims. By age 5, the kid discovered his bastard origins. He threw a massive tantrum, screaming about his low-born mother. He was the illegitimate spawn of Lord Decatur and a lowly maid named Soso. Terrified of his father but ruthless to her, he spat right in Soso's face, ordering her to vanish forever. Snapping back to reality, Larson clutched his chest, suffocating under intense secondhand embarrassment. That was at age 7. His only real talent? A genuinely demonic temper. The list of his atrocities was endless. After 7 solid years of acting like a total menace, an absolute disaster struck at age 8. He actually grabbed Rosalind by her collar, wildly swinging a bat and calling her total trash, threatening to end her life. This absolute brat then proudly bragged about jumping Rosalind, the precious 6-year-old heir to an elite martial arts clan. Thanks to that massive screw-up, his terrifying father, Decatur, had to swallow his pride and beg the Grandel Patriarch for mercy. By age 9, Larson was permanently exiled to the desolate Autumn Mansion. Just days before the possession, this lunatic shattered a wooden table with a massive club, screaming like a madman for the chocolates Bearden had bought. What a total nightmare. A chocolate obsession? Larson was just a throwaway name Sungmin typed into his own web novel. Sure, he scripted Larson as pure trash, but he never coded these hyper-realistic, vivid childhood trauma memories. This reality shattered his original draft. He was breathing inside a universe completely off the script. Everything here evolved organically, totally off-page. His brain was now flooded with Larson's pathetic, unfiltered background lore. Day 3. Slumping on his massive bed, our transmigrated author finally swallowed the harsh, undeniable truth. No waking up from this glitch. The denial phase was dead. Absolute survival mode engaged. Larson was just a low-tier villain from the legendary Sade Sword clan in his original draft. Obviously, zero brain cells went into designing his character model or mapping out his skill tree. He was a pure NPC meant for background filler. Sungmin just slapped a generic martial arts talent tag on him and called it a day. Those basic stats were jotted down purely for filler, completely useless to the actual main storyline. To the readers, this guy was basically a talentless mob. His ultimate destiny? Getting brutally beheaded at 17. Gripping the silk bedsheets, his eyes sparked with desperate resolve. Cheating death just became his absolute main quest. Larson was currently 9. That left exactly 8 years on the ticking clock before his scripted execution. A cold sweat dripped down his face. The real nightmare wasn't just surviving the guillotine, though. Even if he grinded perfectly for 8 years, the true protagonist, Kassen Sade, was an absolute monster, destined to obliterate the Mighten bloodline. Deep in the lore, Mitan Patriarch Dekatra accidentally slaughtered a rival sword clan's firstborn son. The nuclear political fallout kept this bloody secret buried in total shadows. But plot armor dictates the truth always leaks. That revelation would spark an absolute bloodbath between the factions. This escalating hatred birthed a catastrophic clash, forever branded in history as the Sword Demon War. Thanks to literal title plot armor, the Sade clan naturally crushed the war, wiping the Mitan family off the damn map completely. His mind raced, formulating a counter-strategy. Glowing system text randomly flickered across his vision, mocking his panic. When to strike, how to level up. Wait a second. He literally built this entire universe. This wasn't some soul-crushing corporate gig back in Korea. He was the absolute god of this dimension. Every hidden artifact, every overpowered buff handed to Kassen, Sungmin personally engineered all those cheat codes. Armed with supreme meta-knowledge, he could snatch all those legendary perks. Fists trembling with hype, he realized he could forge an untouchable empire. Honestly, a single bathroom in this mansion dwarfed his pathetic, cramped studio apartment back on Earth. You only live once, right? Why not abuse his VIP status and drain every ounce of luxury this noble bloodline offered? Throwing a sharp shadowbox punch, he smirked. He possessed untamed martial arts skills that even the original Larson never properly unlocked. Since brawling was his only coded trait, his raw physical potential had to be cracked. Flowing through his veins was the elite Mighten bloodline. Crossing his arms, he smirked he had literally respawned with a diamond spoon. Riding this wave of absolute delusion and optimism felt incredible. Ignore the trash reputation and that looming decapitation at 17. And this life was a million times better than wage slaving in Korea. He just had to rewrite the script. 8 years to shatter his doomed fate entirely. Suddenly, his eyes snapped to the side, recalling the cryptic system notification from his initial login. The holographic blue text flashed. Character Larson's will awakened. Heaven's Eye activated. His jaw literally dropped. What? That was the absolute god-tier cheat skill exclusive to the protagonist of the Sade clan. Heaven's Eye Online. Why did the protagonist's overpowered skill unlock inside a throwaway villain? Tapping his chin, his brain went into overdrive. If the original text wasn't a glitch, why was this legendary system blessing him? He wasn't the chosen hero. But honestly, who cared about the lore breaking anyway? Snatching this cheat completely shattered the novel's timeline. He possessed the hero's ultimate weapon. His novel was a pure power fantasy, where the protagonist was a munchkin god, capable of obliterating continents. Forget continents. These max-level munchkins possessed the broken scaling to literally shatter universes. But the terrifying catch? That exact divine power was fated to obliterate his new family. Staring wide-eyed at the pulsating aura, he gasped. A glowing ring. The Heaven's Eye was scanning his internal mana flow. One ring meant one magic circle, a literal metaphysical engine pumping pure mana straight through his beating heart. In Sungmin's world, awakening magic rings is the absolute core of true power. Just manifesting the first ring demands brutal training, and that grind costs ridiculous amounts of patience and gold. Did this absolute trash actually grind at an elite academy? His memories showed zero trace of hard work. The power just naturally sparked. Suddenly, a soft knock echoed. Figuring it was Hera, he watched the door slowly creak open. She nervously requested entry. He permitted it. Without hesitation, she dropped straight to her knees, leaving him utterly bewildered. Flashbacks hit him. The original Larson once stomped her head, arrogantly declaring she must bow before daring to meet his eyes. Understood perfectly. Snapping back to reality, he cringed at the absolutely unhinged rules he had written. Hold up. What is that? A glowing blue system screen materialized, displaying a chilling profile. Name, Hera. Hidden talent, assassination. Traits, impossible to decode. Panic spiked. Why is her specialty murder? He never penned that detail. Then it clicked. This is the ruthless domain of the elite Swordmaster clan, a brutal realm ruled by pure violence. Someone deliberately planted a cold-blooded killer right by his side, plunged into a lethal succession war with an assassin maid. In this twisted reality, conflicts only end in massive bloodshed. Keep it together, Sungmin. He forced a stiff, unnatural smirk. He was literally staring down a lethal weapon. One wrong move meant instant death. Staring in pure shock, he realized all her pathetic trembling might be flawless acting. It completely made sense. Yet, her fear felt incredibly raw. The Heavenly Eye system practically confirmed her genuine terror. Coughing nervously, he commanded her attention. Clutching her chest, she raised her fearful gaze, whispering total obedience. He ordered her to stand. Turning away to hide his panic, he randomly demanded some bread and a load of chocolates. Chocolates? She echoed. He mentally begged her to vanish. He desperately needed to strategize. Watching her scramble toward the exit, he questioned if she was faking tears. She violently flinched, screaming absolute denial. She swore to fetch it instantly. Slamming the door shut, she leaned against the wood, her mind totally racing. This strange aura was impossible to describe, completely unlike his usual self. The terrifying shift actually started days ago. His entire vibe had mutated. She couldn't pinpoint why, but the old tyrant vanished. Snapping into focus, she debated leaking this intel to her hidden master immediately. Inside, our guy collapsed at his desk. Crossing his arms defensively, he glared at the glowing UI. Time to decode this mess. He was now Larson Mayton, banished to the Forgotten Autumn estate, stripped of his royal status, and completely erased from the deadly succession battle. Zero chance of inheriting the Magic Master throne, which was honestly a massive win. That hero eternally battles the Swordmaster. To keep his head attached, he needed a flawless survival act. Fortunately, Sungmin literally wrote this universe. Armed with god-tier author knowledge, he held the ultimate cheat code to the future. He knows exactly where every legendary relic is buried. Yet, he is forced to join this bloody succession war. Opting out means being hunted as the ultimate disgrace of the Mayton clan. Plus, he is only 9 years old. Age means nothing here. Even toddlers get dragged into this absolute bloodbath for the throne. But if he plays the unhinged villain for 10 years, he dies at 17. Luckily, his wealth is unlimited. He can finally enjoy the rich slacker lifestyle he always craved. He just needs to master the art of laying low. Faking mediocrity is his specialty. It is the ultimate survival tactic of a true South Korean soldier. Game on. His master plan for this deadly fantasy world was finally locked and loaded. Suddenly, the system flashed a critical warning. Alert. Insufficient mana detected. The Heavenly Eye has forcefully shut down. Just then, Hera nervously peeked inside, whispering deep apologies. Securing the sweet treats was impossible, so she returned empty-handed. He brushed it off, casually accepting her failure. Honestly, he despised sweets anyway. He simply needed a distraction. She dramatically confessed her failure was punishable by execution. He blanked. Seriously? He just told her to leave. Right now, establishing his new persona as the Trash Prince Larson was his absolute priority. Chills violently crawled up his spine. Her assassin footwork was completely silent. Plus, she was suspiciously spying from the doorway. Still hung up on the snacks? She asked again. Breaking character, he roared at her to get out. She flinched, slamming the door. Retreating quickly, she advised him to rest. Pacing the dim corridor, her assassin instincts flared. Did that spoiled brat really dismiss her? Her hearing was flawless. Was the tyrant suddenly obsessed with sugar? Whatever. She would delay reporting his bizarre behavior to her. Shadow Boss. 1 week later, our reincarnated hero confidently flagged down Hampton. The loyal servant instantly snapped to attention. Our main character barked at him to gear up. The servant blinked in pure shock. Gear up? What sudden preparation was this? He coolly declared his destination, the training grounds. Hampton's jaw practically hit the floor. The training grounds? Our hero snapped at him to quit stalling. Did he seriously need to repeat himself? Hampton immediately sprinted off, shouting back over his shoulder. Absolutely not. He would prep everything right this second for the 7th young master. Our hero had spent this entire week strategizing his next moves. Step 1 for survival. Dive headfirst into the brutal succession war and secure an unshakable foothold. Step 2. Grind relentlessly and build public favor. Finally, break free and forge his own destiny. Gripping his fists, he stared ahead. He needed to test one crucial element right now. The first circle, martial arts, and the Heavenly Eye. It was finally time to unleash this legendary power. Sprinting ahead, Hampton's mind raced. Young Master Larson had completely transformed. Just recently, he had mercilessly beaten him black and blue. Deep down, he knew he shouldn't harbor resentment, but rather feel crushing guilt for his own failures. The brutal punishment fell because he failed his master. Yet now, Larson was actually demanding to visit the training hall. Earlier, Hampton had gasped, "The training hall?" Right then, a glowing system interface materialized before our hero's eyes. displaying name, Hampton, core talent, poison attribute, cowardly shadow. Our main character smirked. An assassin and a toxic arts master? Wild. But when did he master poisons? He was definitely hiding daggers behind that timid facade. Every heir from a prestigious mage bloodline receives a highly conditioned personal servant. These shadows are ruthlessly brainwashed from childhood, forged into loyal tools meant to bleed and die for their masters. Hampton was the 7th young master's personal shadow. Our hero scoffed inwardly. A shadow? Even a trash-tier heir like him had one. Hampton was a secret weapon forged by the Mighton family. As they finally reached the towering training facility, Hampton stole a nervous glance at his master. He practically wept with joy. He actually came to train. But what triggered this mind-blowing character development? It wasn't about fearing potential backlash. His heart simply shattered watching his master become the laughingstock of the entire estate. No, he had to trust this new spark. Suddenly, Hampton let out a massive gasp. Our hero was completely mind-blown. A sleek, modern skyscraper sitting right in the middle of a medieval fantasy realm. His past self totally botched the world-building details. But hey, at least this modern vibe felt like home. As they stepped up to the entrance, the glowing interface chimed. Notification. Current zone, Training Quest 1. Every single facility in this mega complex was run by an overseer. A man suddenly approached, crossing his arms and throwing a lazy greeting at the 7th young master. This was Noah, the facility's chief administrator. Our main character stepped right up to him, casually replying, a pleasure. Noah offered a shallow bow, muttering that the honor was all his while keeping his gaze locked on the floor. Noah secretly ground his teeth in pure rage. This spoiled brat had actually slapped him last year just for a supposedly disrespectful bow. But this clueless trash did not even recognize him, did he? Stepping inside, our hero subtly scanned Noah and smirked inwardly. His heavenly eye was drawing a complete blank. That meant this guy's power level completely dwarfed Larson's. Honestly, a jacked administrator made perfect sense. He needed to play this smart and keep his ego completely in check around him. Closing his eyes, he boldly declared his training began today. What beastly targets were available? Noah blinked, utterly bewildered. Training? Our hero nodded sharply. What level of monsters perfectly matched his current age bracket? Noah repeated the question dumbly. Our main character cut him off instantly. For a 9-year-old, he cursed internally. He obviously knew he was still just a weak kid. Exactly 396 days, 8 hours, and 32 minutes had passed since that infamous slap. Noah scowled deeply, his mind plotting. How could he utterly humiliate this brat? He needed a flawless scheme to crush him legally, leaving zero trace for the family to punish. Flashing a venomous smile, he suggested that the 6th young master had easily slaughtered a mushroom monster at this exact age. A mushroom monster? Our hero's eyes gleamed as his creator memories clicked. Roughly 50 centimeters tall, basically a giant walking fungus. It was a pathetic, low-tier mob, native to this region. Planting his hands on his hips, our main character projected pure confidence. Perfect. Noah offered a mocking bow, confirming the request. He would immediately prep the combat zone deep within the mushroom forest. Our hero smirked, ready to face the music. The shady administrator noted that the stage would be set in exactly 3 minutes. As Noah strutted away, our main character squinted. Why did that guy look so ridiculously thrilled? Shutting his eyes, he mentally calculated the odds. A basic mushroom monster was practically a tutorial-level mob. If the underdeveloped 6th young master could obliterate one at age 9, this should be an absolute cakewalk for him. 3 minutes on the clock. Focus. A sudden, electrifying pulse surged from a mysterious mana ring, wrapped tightly around his heart. Raw aura violently swirled around his body. His true talent lay in magical combat arts, and the arcane knowledge was already flowing through him. The legendary bloodline of a supreme mage family burned fiercely within his veins. Moments later, Noah reappeared with a chilling, overly sweet wave. Perfect. Time to move, he smirked. Stepping forward, our hero confidently entered the sprawling training arena. A glowing system interface materialized, flashing a notification and his exact coordinates. Instantly, a magical mushroom forest completely sprouted around him. The administrator vanished into thin air, dropping a sarcastic wish for good luck. Suddenly, our boy blinked in sheer disbelief, noticing a massive shadow. Was this the target? Suddenly, a colossal fungal beast reared up, exposing razor-sharp teeth. Noah's voice echoed loudly. Young master, these fungal freaks are incredibly vulnerable across their main bodies. They are also absolutely terrified of blazing flames. Staring down the grotesque beast, our hero cringed. This ugly thing, watching a giant, fleshy fungus twitch, was pure nightmare fuel. All right, he muttered. Let's get this bloody party started. Channeling raw aura into his clenched fist, he launched a devastating strike. Instantly, a blinding holographic alert blocked his vision. declaring his physical willpower fully verified. That dormant, ancient magical combat technique, locked deep inside his very core, had finally awakened. Meanwhile, observing this spectacle through a glowing crystal sphere, the smirking administrator scoffed mentally. Before serving the elite Maton bloodline, I was a highly respected sorcerer back in Dorothy. Hard to believe now, but they literally called me a magical prodigy. Then, a dark memory flashed. Larson ruthlessly backhanding his cheek and mocking his manhood just for bowing at 82 degrees. Biting his trembling lip until it bled, Noah deeply seethed over that absolute disrespect. 82 instead of a perfect 90. He swore brutal vengeance for that slight. This fungal beast wasn't normal. Noah had secretly buffed it to its absolute maximum power cap. The grotesque creature lunged forward. Noah gloated, knowing the boy's basic combat magic was literally considered the weakest trash in their family tier list. An unranked, elementless strike couldn't even scratch this mutated monster. Our hero braced his stance for impact. Watching intently, Noah grinned like an absolute maniac. Finally, sweet payback time. Die, you brat. Defying expectations, the hero dashed forward, winding up a terrifyingly fast punch, and slammed his fist down, absolutely obliterating the beast into dust. Noah's jaw dropped to the floor. One single hit? Landing gracefully, our hero brushed off his shoulders. Well, that was a joke. A flashing neon alert suddenly popped up. Warning. Newly awakened combat martial art registered at novice tier. By unleashing this totally enlightened fighting style, the chaos of battle suddenly felt predictable. His beginner-level aura technique was now fully unsealed. Adrenaline surged, his heartbeat echoing like heavy war drums. The interface chimed again, confirming his foundational aura skill. Gravity manipulation successfully burned into your monocore, sizzling blue energy wrapped around his physique. Whoa, what is this insane buff? Noah hyperventilated in total disbelief. How is this possible? Was that raw, unfiltered combat aura? That specific discipline combines spells with devastating physical trauma. Fungal beasts absorb kinetic impact, yet he vaporized it so easily. This is a glitch. Swallowing his pride, he broadcasted, "Young master, these creatures seem way too fragile for beginner drills." Our boy scoffed, rolling his eyes. Yeah, no kidding. Sweating profusely, Noah desperately questioned what kind of hellish training the kid endured recently. Dabbing his greasy forehead with a silk handkerchief, Noah cleared his throat. I am significantly cranking up the overall threat level. Wait, exactly how much harder? The hero shouted. A massive spike would be extremely fatal. His mana reserves were practically running empty. Deploying a crimson fungus, Noah smirked maliciously. Way faster and infinitely deadlier. And here is the true kicker. Fail to exterminate it instantly, and it endlessly clones itself. Noah mentally checked his blinding rage. He desperately needed to gather actual combat data for his report. Don't panic. I will abort the simulation if you face lethal danger. Our hero narrowed his piercing eyes. A crimson variant? He definitely didn't remember designing a mob like this. It had to be some hidden boss from the original storyline. Clenching his fists, he smirked confidently. Bring it on. Right on cue, Noah announced. Incoming hostile detected. A grotesque, blood-red monstrosity warped directly into the arena. Sizing up his brand new opponent, our boy scoffed silently. Is a simple palette swap really supposed to scare me? But a microsecond later, his combat instincts absolutely screamed danger. A razor-sharp spore missile violently grazed his cheek, detonating like C4. He immediately combat rolled out of the explosive blast radius, sliding through the thick gravel. Locking eyes with the beast, he analyzed its stats. Insane speed and raw power, but zero technique. In a blinding flash, the monster teleported into his blind spot. Without flinching, our hero threw up his guard, channeling pure, concentrated spellfire. Behind the glass, Noah gasped in absolute shock. He perfectly deflected it. Meanwhile, the pieces finally clicked for our hero. The beast's attack patterns were entirely linear. Time to test drive his new toy. Kicking off the shattered concrete floor, he vaulted skyward, violently grabbing the monster's head. Foundation aura, gravity manipulation. He funneled everything into a singular, devastating counterpunch, but a glaring red error flashed. Insufficient mana. Damn it, I'm completely tapped out, he fiercely cursed internally. He desperately shoved the beast away, his mind racing. Suddenly, the universe glitched. It genuinely felt like time just stood perfectly still. Regardless, that crazy gamble secured his absolute victory. Suddenly, a glowing system prompt flashed right before his eyes, flashing a massive warning. He had completely drained his monocore to 0 for the very first time. Because his energy was totally depleted, his divine eye shut down completely. Whatever, he would fix it after recovering. Meanwhile, Hampton slammed his drink down on the admin desk, completely mind-blown by the absolute spectacle he just witnessed. Was this kid secretly grinding all along? Right then, Noah locked eyes with him, asking if the seventh sword master's 10-year milestone had passed. Next year, he replied, his face twisting as he aggressively gritted his teeth, wondering how the heck this kid was incredibly overpowered before even turning 10. Moments later, our main character finally emerged, and Hampton stared at him in absolute awe. Young master, he actually formed a magic circle. Unlocking a first circle requires insane grinding. He definitely trained in the shadows. Suddenly, he trapped our guy in a massive bear hug, screaming, "Young master!" Our main character instantly panicked, realizing he totally messed up. He literally knew nothing about this fantasy world's logic yet. Shoving Hampton's sweaty face away, he mentally cursed. Being a massive show-off right now would bring way too much heat. He desperately needed a distraction. Instantly, he dramatically collapsed to the floor, making the entire crowd scream in absolute panic. "Young master!" Noah immediately whipped around, barking frantically at Hampton to drag a healer over here right now. Sprinting away like his life depended on it, Hampton hollered back from the second floor, "You got it, boss." Meanwhile, our boy faking his knockout on the floor internally sweat dropped. Was my acting really that intense to need a medic? Honestly, a basic health potion from upstairs would totally work. Cut to the clinic, where the doctor was literally snoozing on the job. Hampton violently burst in, roaring, "Doctor!" The poor guy jolted awake, absolutely terrified out of his mind. "What the heck happened?" he yelled. "The seventh young master is critically injured," the medic deadpanned. "Is that really an emergency?" "Wait, the seventh kid? Not the sixth?" Hampton frantically nodded. "Yes, number 7. The doctor blinked in pure confusion. "Wait, aren't you the sixth master's lackey?" Hampton fiercely corrected him. He exclusively served the seventh master now. The annoyed doctor just sighed, telling him to hold his horses. So the notoriously useless seventh kid actually showed up. Why? Hampton proudly declared that his boss totally wrecked a basic mushroom mob, but took massive damage from a red variant. The doctor's jaw dropped. "Bro, what? How?" Slamming both hands onto the counter, Hampton smugly smirked. He used actual combat magic. Flash forward. Our guy was chilling on a bed. The skeptical healer approached, internally scheming. If this kid suffered magical backlash, treating him as way above my pay grade. Whatever, I will just fake a quick healing attempt. Actually, I will put on a theatrical show, then dump this case onto an elite wizard. The main estate had way better spellcasters anyway. Let those big shots handle this fallout. Smirking inwardly, he dramatically channeled a fake swirl of mana in his palms. Absolutely zero reaction from the boy's body. He scoffed mentally. Duh, completely useless. Yep, this basic magic is totally useless as usual. Time to wrap up this circus and ship him off. Suddenly, our hero weakly lifted a shaking hand, and the fake doctor gasped. "Young master, did my healing power actually level up?" "Nah, literally impossible. This loser probably just recovered on his own." Breaking the silence, our hero locked eyes with the stunned fraud and genuinely thanked him. Everyone basically short-circuited. Say what? He doubled down on his gratitude, leaving the entire staff staring at him in absolute shock. Moments later, a heavily panting Hera busted in, clutching a small stash of premium chocolate bars. She proudly announced she scored the ultra-rare Verdun sweets. Looking completely defeated, she apologized for only snagging 2 pieces, when his order was 3. Frantically bowing, she swore to hunt down more. Waving it off, he casually told her to just relax, drop the loot on the table, and bounce. Her eyes went wide with sheer disbelief as she sputtered, "Wait, what?" Our guy was maxing out on the hospital bed, arms crossed behind his head. Internally, he noticed her pale face. This deadly assassin desperately needed some sleep. Provoking a secret killer right now was basically suicide. Playing the arrogant noble card, he groaned about his post-workout fatigue, ordering her to scram. Biting her lip, she nodded obediently. "Please rest well, young master." Sometime later, Hera stormed into the kitchen, practically screaming, "Are you dead serious? That lazy punk actually hit the gym?" Hampton, washing some dishes, deadpanned that he was not capping. "That spoiled brat? Grinding levels?" she shrieked. "You have got to be kidding me." Meanwhile, back upstairs, our boy cautiously nibbled the dark chocolate. He usually hated sugary garbage, but this legendary snack hit totally differently. The rich cocoa instantly dissolved. That sugar rush aggressively morphed into a blazing, comforting heat, making him feel exactly like he was completely wrapped in a scorching aura. "Hold up, is this an actual buff?" Firing up his divine eye instantly, he scanned his own vitals. Holy crap, the magic properties of this dessert are literally surging through every single vein. The system literally confirmed a sweet mana boost. He thought, that crazy idiot, is this insane sugar hack why he possessed so much raw magic? Suddenly, a glowing system prompt materialized. It revealed he had uncovered a shattered fragment of the hidden truth. Bolting upright, he felt his destiny shifting, as scattered puzzle pieces finally clicked. Who knew ordinary chocolate contained raw mana? He pondered his mana absorption. Regular spellcasters practically killed themselves trekking to distant, energy-rich zones. They suffered pure agony, extracting single drops of power. Yet, his body possessed a hidden cheat, completely absent from the original novel. No wonder the system labeled it an incomplete truth. He got infinite free mana, and the only penalty was gaining a few extra pounds. Wait a second. This sensation felt insanely familiar. He frantically dug through his past memories. Flashing back to his brutal monster fight, a blue screen suddenly popped up. Notification. Slow flow attribute, fully engaged. Slow flow? What the heck was that? Suddenly, a sharp knock shattered the room's absolute silence. He groaned that he didn't need anything else. Hera. But the maid nervously whispered, "Young master, you have an unexpected visitor." He ordered the guest to scram. Right then, Carlton kicked the door open, sneering about his utter lack of respect. Smirking wickedly, Carlton snapped, "Your superior brother graces you with his presence, and you remain seated? Where are your damn manners? Want to eat bird crap again? Trash?" As the sixth young master swaggered forward, our hero clenched his jaw. This was Carlton, the exact bastard who previously terrorized his very soul. Forcing a fake bow, he gritted out, "You needed something, older brother?" Jamming his magic staff forward, Carlton scoffed. "This is exactly why you're absolute garbage. Your pathetic brain processes things far too slowly. So, what the hell are you waiting for?" Our protagonist blinked in genuine confusion. "What?" Immediately, Carlton violently swung his heavy staff. "Get on your knees and crawl like the insect you are." Right as he roared, a transparent blue window sparked to life. System alert. Latent attribute unsealed. Slow flow, automatically engaging. That exact same chilling sensation washed over his body again. Just like his bloody clash with the red mushroom beast. He desperately needed a strategy to dodge this arrogant jerk's incoming strike. Actually, this was the perfect dummy to test his awakened powers. Thrusting his bare hand forward, he effortlessly parried the magical staff. He casually swatted the weapon aside. Carlton's eyes bugged out in pure shock. What just happened? He immediately shrieked in absolute fury. "What kind of trick was that, you filthy trash?" Our boy coolly replied, "Just basic self-defense." Carlton's face twisted, demanding he repeat himself. "Repeat what exactly? Say that ridiculous garbage to my face again, loser." The main character just smirked, calling it pure nonsense. Carlton froze, utterly baffled. He actually talked back? His entire body vibrated with volcanic rage before he screeched, "You suicidal idiot!" Violent blue mana violently swirled around his brother, as he promised absolute murder. Instantly, our hero dropped into a flawless combat stance. He sensed pulsating mana rings forming around Carlton's frantic heart. It was time to completely exploit this massive magical blind spot. Channeling explosive magic, Carlton unleashed a lethal swipe, roaring for his little brother's death. Boom! Another crucial system prompt instantly flashed. Target scanned. Name, Carlton. Core affinity, water magic. Key trait, pathetic hothead. Scanning the tactical data, our boy's eyes dangerously narrowed. Water? Unstable aquatic rings were rapidly manifesting around his target's skull and core. Letting him complete this deadly spell sequence would be disastrous. Carlton launched his devastating magical blast, only to gasp, "What the hell?" Moving like a ghost, our hero instantly materialized behind him. He delivered a brutal chop, immediately following up with a gut-wrenching abdominal strike. Instantly, Carlton violently hacked up a thick puddle of dark blood. He collapsed onto one knee, gasping for air in pure agony. Staring at the crimson mess, our hero frowned. "Blood already? My aura control is still too sloppy." Panicking outwardly, he desperately screamed for Hampton to fetch a healer. His sharp mind raced. Did hitting him forcefully detonate the unstable water mana right inside his own internal pathways? Seconds later, Hampton burst through the doorway. "Young master, what on earth happened here?" The main character loudly ordered him. "Get a damn medic in here right now." The servant immediately bolted. Meanwhile, our hero coldly stared down at his shattered older sibling. Yeah, he definitely used way too much force, but honestly, he just discovered the absolute perfect counterattack to instantly shatter arrogant spellcasters. A wicked smirk crossed his face. His basic survival goal was reaching age 17. Honestly, he was already leveling up way faster than expected. The very next morning, Hera shrieked in absolute disbelief. "How did that useless loser defeat the sixth young master? This makes zero logical sense." Chilling on the sofa, Hampton casually replied, "No kidding, it sounds impossible, but I literally witnessed the absolute carnage with my own two eyes." Yet, he kept the real details completely hidden. "Hey sis, why can't you drop the innocent act?" She glared, questioning his bold words. "Wait, are you actually going to expose me as a secret shadow assassin?" Startled by her bluntness, he watched her gracefully take a seat. Dismissively waving her hand, she scoffed. Literally everyone, except that clueless idiot, knows our secret. Hampton smirked, pointing out she was far from a normal housekeeper. Your footsteps make zero sound, and your movements are completely flawless. Locking eyes, she coldly confirmed his exact suspicions. Again, literally everyone knows my true identity except that lazy trash bag. Hampton leaned forward. Sis, do you honestly still believe he's completely useless? Taking a slow sip of her drink, she ordered him to spill the tea. Hampton grinned. I think our supposedly useless master is finally awakening his true power. The main character's eyes widened. So this was the legendary sanctuary for mana mastery, the Star Library. Seriously, this place looked more like a massive luxury mall. Suddenly, a glowing system prompt flashed. Location confirmed, the Star Library. He stood completely stunned, regretting he hadn't discovered this paradise sooner. Stepping inside, absolute awe washed over him. Unbelievable. Mountains of endless ancient texts surrounded him. The colossal shelves stretched endlessly toward the third floor. He whispered, just how much forbidden knowledge is hoarded here? A mysterious voice suddenly echoed. Roughly 200,000 tomes, 7th young master. He whipped his head around, heart racing. What the heck? Where was that coming from? Space itself tore open. A floating girl emerged from the rift. He blinked, asking, Who are you? She smirked, introducing herself as Evian, the Grand Manager. Cut to Hera, elegantly setting her teacup down. Are you claiming he actually prepared for his 10th birthday awakening? That absolute trash hiding his true power flawlessly? Isn't playing pretend totally useless? Hampton shot up from the couch, practically shaking. I swear he faked his incompetence for 10 entire years. Crossing her arms, she scoffed at his wild delusion. Hampton barked back. I literally witnessed his awakening myself. He instantly broke through to the first circle, she gasped. First circle? Achieving that impossible feat in mere days? Throwing his arms wide, he pleaded with her to use her brain and connect the dots. His trashy reputation completely eliminated him from the brutal succession war. Her eyes widened as the realization finally hit. You were his only watcher. Do you realize what a massive tactical advantage that gave our supposedly weak master? That completely blinded us to his hidden fangs. Hera averted her gaze, muttering that this logic was totally insane. That loser's potential is strictly capped at basic combat magic. Hampton aggressively shut down her massive misconception. He staked his entire life on this truth. Why? Because I existed as his personal shadow in the darkness. Our master guarantees us a glorious future. Plus, if he falls, we both become disposable clan garbage. We must forge an alliance. Cutting off his desperate plea, Hera abruptly stood tall and declared her terms. If he actually visits the Grand Library, I'll reconsider. He blinked. Come again? She smirked, dropping some heavy clan lore. Every Mighton bloodline heir must dominate the library's ancient texts to survive the upcoming bloody succession war. That's where true masterminds evolve. Meanwhile, our hero stared intensely at the floating girl. Evian? Who the heck? That name definitely wasn't in his novel memory. A glitching system window popped up, revealing her true identity. Wait, Larvian? Lifting her elegant dress, she bowed gracefully. An absolute honor to finally cross paths. 7th young master. Holy crap. Finding her hiding here was an insane plot twist. She never even interacted with the original protagonist, Kassan. She was an absolute monster of a mage who violently hijacked multiple major future timelines. Just recently, elite knights charged blindly, screaming to execute the witch. He swallowed hard at the terrifying memory. She single-handedly slaughtered the tyrannical Lord of Revedon and entirely obliterated his elite strike force. Unleashing an apocalyptic wave of absolute zero aura, she flash-froze his entire fortress. History would literally brand her a walking calamity. She'll trigger the devastating Northern Sea War. This internationally wanted criminal is casually managing the prestigious Mighton Library. That perfectly explains her flawless disguise. The legendary Mighton Sanctuary is practically hallowed ground for supreme aura users. Since it hoards original, world-class magical grimoires, every single librarian is secretly an overpowered, high-ranking spellcaster. They hold absolute authority over these sacred texts. But out of all the hidden masters lurking around, why her? Why is the terrifying Ice Witch, who flash freezes victims with a single glare, serving him? She politely directed him to a second-floor VIP table. Sweating bullets, he awkwardly stuttered his agreement. I shall prepare tea, she offered smoothly. What is your preference, my lord? Perhaps some dark black tea? Forcing a fake smile, he screamed internally. He absolutely despised it. Yes, black tea sounds totally perfect. Instantly, she vanished into thin air, promising immediate service. He stared blankly ahead, totally paralyzed. This fantasy world is a literal death trap. The irony hit hard, surviving an S-rank witch on his first library trip. If the original trash master stepped in here, He'd be ice sculptures by now. Minutes later, our hero sat rigidly, a steaming teacup resting before him. The disguised witch gently asked about his ultimate study goals. He swallowed, replying, he desperately needed a Monocore Awakening manual. She tilted her head, questioning which specific tier he desired. The absolute lowest, absolute basics, he admitted. She frowned. A useless starter text for someone possessing the legendary Mighten bloodline? Watch your step before taking the leap, he warned with a sly smirk. Leap? She echoed in confusion. Activating her search skill, she muttered. Give me a sec, I'm casting a spell. In a flash, the ancient tome materialized, slamming heavily onto the desk. Got it. You are officially dismissed, he nodded. Fading into the shadow, she wished him luck. Flipping the heavy cover, he pondered, mana, the ultimate universal life force flowing through all of nature. To awaken as a true mage, one must gather this aura in their core and forge a mana circle. That demands Largo's 8th theorem mixed with Proto's 7th equation, making the final absolute answer E648. Are they completely serious? This is basic stuff, he scoffed. No way a modern guy can self-teach this ancient sorcery. Banging his forehead against the heavy pages, he groaned. This mystical discipline was absolute, incomprehensible gibberish to his modern brain. But wait, even if his mortal brain failed him, he possessed the divine eye. A glowing system window popped up, introductory magic analysis at 5%. He had only triggered it as a wild guess, but it was actually functioning. It translated the arcane runes into a sleek digital interface, such an absolutely monstrous cheat skill. The catch? Some absolute beast out there wielded this exact power flawlessly. He then noticed the blinking system alert, stating, introductory magic analysis stalled at 22%. The divine eye abruptly deactivated due to his severely insufficient mana reserves. Shutting his eyes, he wondered, will, reaching 100%, grant me absolute mastery? Upgrading his pathetic mana pool was now mission critical. Slamming the tome shut, he decided to call it quits for today. Moments later, his loyal butler Hampton warmly greeted, welcome home, young master. Nearing the grand estate, the main character nodded in satisfaction. Hampton then dramatically chimed in, Lady Soso traveled here from the Maple Annex. The protagonist froze. Soso? His pupils dilated in sheer, unadulterated disbelief as he locked eyes with his mother. What kind of insane plot twist is this? Why spawn her here now? Sungmin's heart always ached for her, regretting his terrible timing. As a little kid, he had wailed in utter despair. Mom, don't leave me behind, please stay. He had collapsed beside her sterile hospital bed. His beloved mother tragically succumbed to terminal cancer during his fragile childhood. That tragedy made him the perfect target for vicious bullies. One scumbag, after throwing a brutal hook, sneered, just a pathetic, motherless orphan. The sheer audacity of his disrespect. Sungmin's broken soul was tormented by endless trauma ever since. But standing right here, why was she a perfect clone of his mother? Squinting closer, a sudden realization hit him. A blue dot. Instantly, a holographic character status window manifested before him. Name, Soso. Role, Larson's mother. Status, Stage 1 blue dot. Later on, Hera delicately served steaming cups of tea. He sat face to face with Soso. Recalling his past explosive tantrums, guilt washed over him. What the hell was I? Wait, no. I mean, why did the original Larson treat her like garbage? Taking a breath, he murmured, Mother. She flinched, utterly shocked. He awkwardly confessed he had no idea how to begin. Watching from the shadows, the maid speculated, perhaps our 7th master isn't absolute trash, but is instead faking his incompetence to survive the brutal succession war. Simply observing from the sidelines is no longer an option. Breaking the heavy silence, our hero stared at the floor and whispered a deeply genuine apology for his toxic past behavior. Soso stared at him, absolutely stunned, as he softly continued, I don't expect you to forgive my sudden change, but my mind is finally clear. I was acting like a total monster back then. Trembling slightly, she lifted her teacup. Is that true? He poured his heart out, desperately repenting for his past sins. Soso simply kept her gaze downcast, offering brief, breathless nods. The immense pain she carried echoed through her fragile, trembling whispers. Slowly standing up, she turned toward the grand door, claiming she needed to return to her chores. He frowned inwardly. She wasn't a maid anymore. She had 0 tasks assigned. Then the system stats flashed in his mind. Blue dot, the exact deadly plague Sungmin himself had written into the story. A terrifying, terminal curse that branded the victim's chest with 3 glowing azure marks. Its origins remain a total mystery, and no cure exists. Once the 3rd dot manifests, your fate is completely sealed. Thank the gods she is only at stage 1. Slipping out of the room, Soso gently clicked the heavy door shut and collapsed against the wall. Burying her face, She sobbed quietly, utterly confused by her sudden avalanche of tears on such a beautiful day. Today, after all this time, her precious boy finally called her Mom. Before leaving, the main character had gently asked, Mom, if possible, could we hang out for an hour daily? I'll brew some Chalupa Mountain Caratina tea and we can share it. I'd love that, she had stammered. Gazing out the grand window, our hero's eyes sharpened. Chalupa Mountain Caratina tea. It's an insanely rare black market item, but brewing it straight for 30 days is the ultimate antidote for the blue dot. Despite her past scandals and raising a villainous son, she never gave up on Larson. She is still my mother. Stay healthy, he had told her. Moments later, Soso collapsed onto her mattress, her mind racing. Was she hallucinating? This couldn't be reality. Larson was completely unrecognizable. With the 10-year anniversary looming closer, it felt like a stranger had possessed his body. Could he sense her racing heart? Now, they were sharing daily tea sessions. His massive transformation left her reeling. Clutching her pounding chest, she whispered how baffling this sudden shift truly was. Yet, profound joy washed over her. Bizarre, right? Hot tears cascaded down her cheeks while the candlelight danced, wildly in the phantom breeze. Cut to our main character, summoning Hyra. Command me, my lord, she replied. He announced a top-tier mission. Her eyes widened in shock. A critical task? Had he finally uncovered her secret identity? Was this a deadly loyalty check? Surely he wasn't ordering another bloodbath? Then, with deadpan seriousness, he demanded, Burdan chocolates. She blinked, totally dumbfounded. He craved the premium batch and ordered her to sweep the entire stock. Seriously, what epic quest was she expecting? Oh, wait, he casually threw in. A knowing smirk crossed her lips. Here comes the real mission. Raid the Laudana bakery for extra desserts, he finished. She squeezed her eyes shut, utterly defeated. Fast forward 60 minutes. Our guy smirked, marveling at absolute financial dominance. Gazing at the mountain of sugary loot, his mind calculated the insane cost. 20,000 grains per bar. Back in Korea, that's 200,000 won. He had at least 100 right here. Crossing his arms, he admired the insanely expensive sugar stash. Hyra had dropped 2 million grains in 60 minutes flat. He fully intended to flex this ridiculous wealth and absolute authority in this new world. Devouring the premium treats, he moaned at the god-tier flavor. The math was insane. Top-tier Burdan chocolates drained 300,000 grains, while the absolute cheapest robbed you of 100,000. But the secret lay in the hidden mana density. These legendary desserts were literally pumping pure magical energy into him from the Laudana bakery. There was a secret reason for this. Burdan chocolates. Both items shared one mysterious, overpowered ingredient. Snapping his fingers, he summoned his servant, Hampton, who nervously peeked through the door crack. Yes, boss? Our main character immediately ordered him to drag the Laudana baker over. Half an hour passed. The terrified baker trembled in his room, sweating over this sudden summons. Did the master find poison in the pastries? Rumors painted this noble as an absolutely ruthless, cold-blooded tyrant who brutally crushed even high-ranking martial artist daughters. A literal nobody like this baker could be slaughtered instantly, and his corpse would just vanish. He silently prayed for absolute mercy. Suddenly, the boss's voice boomed. Hey! The poor chef shrieked in absolute terror. Yes, sir. Smirking, our guy inspected the glowing candy in his palm and demanded the hidden recipe. Well, you see, he stammered. Cutting him off completely, the master commanded a full, unfiltered confession. Spill absolutely every single detail. Instantly, the baker collapsed onto his knees, screaming out desperate, panicked apologies. He begged for his life, but the boss rolled his eyes. He didn't care about mistakes. He just wanted the formula. Shaking like a leaf, the chef frantically counted on his fingers, spilling the highly classified baking secrets. Just Dorothy territory sugar, and, wait, oh, a massive dose of 1,000-year-old mystical herbal powder. 2 huge scoops plus starch syrup. Is that literally it? Our hero pressed. He nodded furiously. The puzzle pieces snapped together. The hidden mana source powering those Burdan chocolates was that legendary 1,000-year-old herb. A wicked grin spread across his face. Infinite mana was now on the menu. Meanwhile, back at the combat grounds, Noah slumped at his desk, arms tightly crossed. The endless stream of gossiping students was pushing his sanity to the brink. Everyone wanted dirt on the infamous 7th Master. He could only confirm 2 epic facts. First, he completely annihilated a seasoned martial expert, using an insane magical combat art. Second, he totally bypassed the devastating recoil damage by wielding the god-tier recovery spell, Mana Embrace. Suddenly, shattering the tense atmosphere, a panicked healer burst into the room screaming. The 7th Master just absolutely butchered the 6th Master. He beat him into a bloody pulp. Noah shot up like a rocket. What? He roared. Absolute panic seized his brain. Grinding his teeth in pure rage, he cursed inwardly. That arrogant punk was an absolute psychopath. How did that trash suddenly awaken such monstrous power? Even with his insane new skills, dominating through magical combat seemed impossible. Trembling, the healer gasped out a horrific reminder. The 10-year ceremony was literally right around the corner. Was this lunatic flexing his brutal strength just before the grand event? He had utterly pulverized a master to death's door. The guy was practically a walking corpse. Crossing his arms, Noah's mind raced, trying to debunk the impossible math. First of all, mages were notoriously sluggish. Even relying on high-tier flash steps, bridging that explosive speed gap should be physically impossible. A 9-year-old using that magic? Impossible, the healer gasped, utterly shocked by the kid's hidden, monstrous potential. Noah scoffed. Sure, magical combat arts boosted his speed and power, but every human body has a breaking point. Pushing up his glasses, he sneered. Surpassing the legendary Grandel was nothing but a foolish pipe dream. Plus, fusing elemental spells would trigger absolute chaos. It was a dead, cursed science that the entire magical world had abandoned ages ago. He knows the risks. Why walk straight into damnation? The healer panicked, his voice shaking with intense anxiety. Was the kid just clueless? Maybe, he muttered, but his gut screamed that something deeper was brewing. He smirked, brushing it off. Relax. Aren't you overthinking this whole doomed prodigy narrative? Still, he grinned. This 10th anniversary ceremony is going to be absolute fire. Meanwhile, the main character casually crunched a magical herb. Ding! The system chimed, blessing his veins with a fresh surge of mana. He smirked. Bingo. He could devour pure magical energy without racking up any empty calories. He'd hoarded a 10-year supply of Birdman chocolates. Now, his body's extra padding was literally acting as an overpowered, secret mana reservoir. Channeling that energy into his core sparked a blazing inferno, incinerating the fat to fuel his magical awakening. This massive boost extended his celestial eye's duration, accelerating his cultivation to terrifying speeds. Cut to 3 days later, he slammed the desk. Nailed it. Instantly, a glowing blue system hologram erupted in front of his face. The interface flashed, analyzing Introduction to Magical Sciences. His celestial eyes ruthlessly downloaded every single drop of knowledge from the text. Another golden alert popped up. The legendary teachings of Great Sage Alberto were successfully unlocked. A hidden, shimmering page materialized. His eyes widened in shock. What kind of cheat code is this? Suddenly, the ancient tome flipped furiously on its own. The system announced, the 77th book of Great Sage Alberto. His mission was clear. Hunt down the ultimate, beginner-friendly foundation of magic mana cultivation. Ethereal text glowed brightly across the parchment. Who even is this Great Sage Alberto? He muttered, realizing he needed to dig way deeper into this mystery. That meant hitting the library. Honestly, Evian terrified him. Dodging that ruthless ice witch was his #1 priority for survival, but fate dragged him there anyway. Above him, Hera silently watched from the rafters, arms strictly crossed. Hours later, our hero crept into the dusty archives, gripping his tome. He swore his memories, remembered this place being much colder. Where was Evian? Instantly, an icy presence manifested directly behind him. Finished already? She whispered. He leaped out of his skin, letting out a pathetic yelp before shakily handing over the book. Yes. She raised a suspicious eyebrow at his insane reading speed. It was basic stuff, he flexed. Instantly, she tossed the heavy volume, and it vanished into thin air. He gasped inwardly. Silent casting? Her magical prowess is absolutely terrifying. Piercing him with her gaze, she asked what else he needed. He nervously requested the legendary 77th book of Great Sage Alberto, the foolproof guide to magic cultivation. A text with that exact title? She nodded coldly. Yes. It resides within the Starlight Library, she stated. He immediately demanded it, but her eyes narrowed. That grimoire is cursed with impossible, useless gibberish, she warned. It was fragmented into Class B books. Rubbing the back of his neck, he flashed a goofy grin. No sweat. I'm just taking a peek for fun. Without warning, Evian leaned in dangerously close, her eyes slipping shut. His heart hammered in his chest. What is this terrifying pressure? She was literally sniffing him like a hungry apex predator. Pulling back, she murmured, Lord? He swallowed hard. Yeah? You smell. Sweet, she noted. Confused, he patted his coat. Sweet? Diving into his inner pocket, he whipped out a rare chocolate bar. Is this the culprit? He nervously offered the sugary loot to her. Want a bite? Snatching the treat, she kept her tsundere glare. I do not care for sweets, but since you are begging, I accept. He deadpanned internally. Is she seriously glitching out over chocolate? It is like her badass villain persona, just blue-screened. Studying her weirdly adorable reaction, He could not help but shake his head. Turning toward the grand exit, he smirked. Catch you later, Ice Witch. He secretly wondered if throwing her a compliment would totally break her icy brain. Drop by the Autumn Mansion anytime, he offered casually. We have a mountain of chocolate. I will warn Hera you are coming. Her icy facade cracked with pure shock. Stepping into the sunlight, he chuckled. Would that terrifying mage actually show up? He was just dropping some basic riz and polite manners. Did her scary brain even process that social cue? Later, hunched over his massive grimoire, a glowing notification crashed into his vision. System alert. Download 42% complete. Heaven's Eye shutting down. Mana depleted. He gritted his teeth. Everything always circled back to the brutal grind of mana cultivation. The great sage Alberto's easy-to-learn guide? Total letdown. Sure, the guy's an absolute legend. He slings top-tier spells like it's nothing. Pretty mind-blowing, right? But to reach that god-tier level, you gotta master the absolute basics first. If only this manual wasn't stuffed with pointless bragging. Suddenly, Hampton's eyes widened. Whoa, he gasped, totally stunned. He and Hera stood frozen, watching our main character sprint his heart out. Hampton smirked, noting the kid's crazy grind set, hitting the annex library, crushing intense workouts. But Hera quickly realized this wasn't just your average gym routine. Then what exactly is he doing? He asked. Suddenly, Evian materialized right beside them, her voice cutting through. He is literally melting solidified mana, clumps through pure physical conditioning. They flinched, spinning around as Hera gasped. Mistress Evian. Hera shivered. She hadn't even sensed her terrifyingly quiet approach. Hampton carefully asked, "What brings you to the Autumn Mansion?" Evian gave a subtle nod, prompting Hampton to offer an official announcement. "No need. Keep it quiet," she dismissed effortlessly. Hampton's mind raced. Why would someone of her caliber visit? As the Grand Librarian, she was undeniably a top-tier magic powerhouse. Was she scouting the kid's potential? Backing a horse in the brutal succession war? Impossible. Librarians are strictly bound to absolute neutrality. Evian's piercing gaze locked onto our hero. It seems the pathetic rumors were entirely wrong. Hera nervously stepped up. "Mistress Evian? What is it?" Evian asked. Hera stammered, explaining the Lord left strict orders to hand over a specific item. With trembling hands, Hera pulled out a simple chocolate bar and offered it up. Hera silently sweated, doubting a cold-blooded elite actually craved sweets, but she wasn't about to question the Lord's bizarre instructions. Evian stared at the treat, her mind calculating the heavy political weight of accepting such a seemingly innocent bribe. Hera held her breath, absolutely terrified that this cheap snack was about to ignite Evian's legendary wrath. Instead, Evian smoothly snatched the chocolate. I suppose I cannot reject his generous hospitality. Everyone else just stood there, completely dumbfounded. Hera's brain short-circuited. What was the Lord's true endgame here? What kind of crazy secret history did these two share? Flash forward 3 days. A glowing blue system window randomly popped into our hero's vision. Notice, he was deep in the zone, meticulously hacking the secrets of the basic mana cultivation manual. His heavenly eyes skill was literally devouring the book's ancient knowledge. Jackpot, he smirked, convinced he'd just completely conquered the foundation. But a split second later, agonizing pain violently spiked, instantly dropping him to his knees. Chaotic, invisible lightning ripped through his entire nervous system. Panic set in. Wait, what is happening? This mana is overflowing. If he couldn't control this volatile energy surge, his heart would literally detonate. Gritting his teeth, he fired up his heavenly eyes. Imagine dying just because you misread a stupid tutorial book. He desperately anchored his erratic mana core, buying precious seconds. Total focus was survival. Grounding himself, he forced the wild energy into submission until the system finally pinged. Success. The ultimate mana cultivation foundation has been permanently engraved into your heart. Thanks to this massive power-up, previously locked hidden character lore suddenly became totally visible. A thrill ran down his spine. New intel. The system chimed, unlocking a deeply buried backstory from another world. Finally, he would uncover why Evian gave him such bizarre, unpredictable vibes. Instantly, a glowing holographic profile materialized right in front of him. Name, Larvian. Age, 27. Core attribute, ice. Personality, cold, bluntly honest, occasionally ruthless. But the restricted lore section was the real shocker. Secret obsession, total chocoholic. He stared blankly, his brain short-circuiting. Wait, seriously? Hold on a second. A forgotten memory violently resurfaced, babysitting his buddy's kid in his past life, chilling at his computer while the boy sprawled on the floor. He remembered furiously typing out fan fiction character profiles in his digital notebook just to entertain the kid. It all clicked. That is exactly why Evian was acting so weird. Suddenly, an icy voice shattered his realization. Meditating is completely useless for garbage like you. His eyes snapped open, scanning the area. Crimson flames danced around him, but they didn't burn. Wait, heatless fire? I am not alone. A menacing shadow stepped from the inferno. Persia swaggered forward, flashing a wicked, bloodthirsty smirk. Hey Piggy, why fake the intense meditation? Begging for a quick death? As she mocked him, her terrifying system profile popped up. Name, Persia. Age, 29. Attributes, fire, earth, water. Personality, tyrannical, merciless, unapologetically cruel. His heart dropped. A monster, triple attribute mage. Why was a walking nuke targeting him? Persia tilted her head, eyes glinting with madness. Should I just slice you up right now? My patience is 0. The system flashed a brutal warning. She absolutely despises weaklings, and slicing prey is her absolute favorite hobby. Slicing people? What a sick hobby, he panicked internally. Persia's deadly aura flared. Not gonna answer me? Why fake it? She demanded, killing intent, suffocating the air. He opened his mouth, then instantly snapped it shut. No, that is a death sentence. An apology almost escaped him, but knowing her absolute disgust for pathetic weaklings, begging would guarantee his limbs getting completely severed. Persia was unconsciously testing his true limits. Meeting her fierce gaze, he firmly declared his unwavering focus wasn't some cheap act. Her voice dropped dangerously, demanding a repeat. Despite his bold front, his racing heart betrayed pure, unadulterated terror screaming inside him. Pushing through the fear, he challenged her directly, claiming her legendary perception surely saw deeper than his mere surface-level facade. A wicked smirk crossed her face, daring him to continue his bluff. Yet, her sharp instincts definitely recognized his intense, genuine focus. Pressing forward, he exposed her psychological trap. She only pushed him to see if he would pathetically grovel or deceitfully cut corners. Right? A dark chuckle echoed wildly. Did his massive gamble actually work? She simply smirked, calling him a crazy bastard. The wild whispers about his dramatic transformation were completely accurate. Rumors, he deeply pondered. He boldly claimed his new desire to live righteously. Scoffing, she questioned if his redemption arc started far too late. Meeting her gaze, he countered that recognizing your absolute lowest point vanishes in a mere heartbeat. Instantly, Persia manifested a blazing, lethal serpent of pure flames right before his eyes, coldly stating that crossing the point of no return means absolute doom. Without any further warning, the scorching inferno coiled tightly against his throat. Gasping, he admitted his own severe limitations meant claiming the absolute patriarch title was impossible, yet he possessed enough cunning to crown the next mighty matriarch. Smirking through the blazing heat, she simply whispered her dark approval. Taking his shot, he pitched himself as an unpredictable, game-changing wildcard in this brutal succession war. Her piercing eyes locked onto his soul, questioning, how could worthless trash ever provide genuine value? He smoothly countered that any weapon's deadliness relies entirely upon its master's ultimate skill, exactly how a simple blade rewrites history. Eyes narrowing, she demanded to know exactly whose wildcard he planned to become. He internally analyzed her trap, debating if she wanted his blind loyalty. Playing defensively, he confessed his ignorance of the family's brutal power dynamics, keeping his ultimate backing regarding the patriarch, or matriarch, completely neutral. Deep down, he remembered the terrifying whispers crowning Evelia, the apocalyptic sorceress, as the future absolute ruler. Dropping a massive bomb, he exposed her hidden terror of their second sister. A suffocating silence immediately consumed the room. Instantly, the blazing serpent unhinged its massive jaws, lunging directly toward his eyes. The suffocating heat skyrocketed to completely unbearable, flesh-melting temperatures. Absolute fiery death felt terrifyingly imminent. Breaking the tension, Persia coldly stated she only entertained his pathetic rambling because of his past innocent charm, yet his current arrogant bluffs severely tested her patience. Holding his ground, he reminded her of her absolute disgust for pathetic liars, emphasizing her undeniable preference for brutal honesty over cowardly, spineless groveling. Moreover, completely erasing his pathetic past, he utterly refused to be remembered as a tragic, defeated weakling. Bowing to genuine respect was acceptable, but yielding to sheer tyranny was unforgivable. Without any warning, his legs finally gave out as the raging inferno completely vanished. Hacking violently, he wheezed that his brutal honesty surely earned her twisted, reluctant, absolute mercy. Materializing a mysterious glowing artifact from thin air, she muttered a soft insult. Instantly, she hurled the heavy projectile straight into his battered chest, knocking the air out of him. The devastating impact literally felt like a massive cannonball shattering his fragile ribs. Gazing at the strange orb rolling away, pure confusion struck him. Was that seriously just a normal apple? Did a literal fruit just break his bones? Suddenly, the system interface confirmed his basic combat skill had successfully neutralized her overwhelmingly lethal, high-tier magical assault. The fundamental combat art, Iron Will, permanently branded itself onto his newly awakened mana core. Iron Will, he deeply pondered. Unlocking a legendary martial technique from a mere fruit strike was completely absurd. Meanwhile, Persia confidently shifted her stance, placing a hand on her hip, fiercely ordering him to consume the item. Utterly baffled, he questioned her insane demand. Scoffing, she casually claimed she randomly grabbed it off the dirty path. Exploding into a blinding pillar of flames, she vanished completely. Left alone, he cautiously grabbed the suspicious fruit, deeply questioning his sanity. A shocking realization struck him like absolute lightning. Instantly, a glowing holographic screen directly materialized, flashing a massive, game-changing system alert. Alert. Cardian Mana Elixir. A priceless, incredibly rare legendary treasure brimming with absolute power. His mind totally short-circuited. Securing such a mythical Cardian relic was purely impossible luck. Surviving this insane, deadly encounter was solely a twisted perk of carrying the absolute Maton bloodline. Even Kaysen, the overpowered main character, possesses such a massively bloated skill inventory that housing another legendary Cardian remains completely impossible. Did this incredibly twisted stroke of fate make him vastly superior? Far away, Persia relaxed at her grand desk, questioning if that brat truly controlled the cursed Autumn estate. The vicious rumors dominating the underworld confirmed this terrifying 9-year-old prodigy was completely self-taught. If he brilliantly orchestrated this entire evil mastermind persona flawlessly, his deceptive genius rivals the most venomous serpents. Rhythmically drumming her sharp nails against the polished wood, she coldly calculated her next massive, game-changing move. Securing such a manipulative pawn was absolutely vital for destroying her monstrous second sister. Unlike pathetic weaklings who easily crumble under intense, terrifying pressure, he brilliantly conceals his true potential. Her tapping violently escalated, instantly splintering the solid wood, darkly adding, yet seizing the absolute patriarchal throne remains completely impossible for him. His pathetic power ceiling is glaringly, painfully obvious. The desk suddenly exploded into countless jagged splinters. Standing amidst the wreckage, she smirked, calling him an incredibly resilient, deeply fascinating little punk, though utterly unworthy of the supreme patriarch crown. Summoning Sando, she strictly commanded the relentless amplification of those viciously spreading rumors. Rumors called the youngest brother absolute trash, but to keep him out of enemy hands, she needed him completely isolated from the bloodline. She commanded her shadows to act naturally. Her real focus? Whether that brat actually swallowed the Carthian. Death was not an option for him just yet. She had to monitor him closely, ensuring that artifact did not literally tear his insides apart. Sando smirked, teasing her sudden soft spot. She snapped back instantly. Getting caught assassinating her own flesh and blood would be a massive headache. But if he rejects the gift, well, that is where the real fun begins. Blazing crimson aura instantly erupted around her. She smirked ruthlessly. If that coward refused the ultimate power handed to him, severing his useless limbs would not be a tragedy at all. A glowing blue system window flashed a brutal warning. Overdose guarantees instant death. Absorbing this demonic energy required an absolute powerhouse of a mage backing him. System recommendation? Seek out water, ice, or wind magic. Our main character stared intensely at the artifact, mind racing. What was the lethal limit? And why did that crazy sister hand him this? Was she forging twisted chains of debt? No way. The third sister operated on pure chaos. Dropping this nuke in his lap was probably just a twisted whim to cure her boredom. If he mastered this power and leveled up, he would become her perfect puppet. Would she groom him as a weapon or discard him like trash? But refusing it meant guaranteed dismemberment. He had zero choice. He had to swallow it. Now, he desperately needed an ally. The system interface continued glowing, heavily suggesting water, ice, or wind affinity for survival. Evian, the legendary ice mage. Securing her help seemed perfect, until he realized she might just execute him and steal the loot. Her alibi would be bulletproof. The greedy trash overdosed on the Carthian. I tried healing him, but failed. The ultimate artifact falling into her lap was an absolute nightmare scenario. Speak of the devil, a sudden knock echoed. It is Evian. May I enter? Larson gritted his teeth. Concealment was impossible now. An elite mage like her would instantly detect that suffocating mana leaking from the Carthian. He granted her entry, his mind frantically calculating a completely new survival strategy. Evian, he stated flatly. Faking ignorance was useless. She had clearly spotted it. He played the transparency card, refusing to hide anything. As they took their seats across the heavy oak table, our main character spoke. You already know what this is. The legendary Carthian. Evian offered a chilling nod. Larson locked eyes with her. I want to strike a deal. What kind of dangerous bargain are you proposing? She challenged. He confessed. His current stats were trash. He needed her raw magical output to absorb it. Evian shut him down instantly. As the Grand Librarian, absolute neutrality was her sworn duty. Interfering in this bloody succession war was strictly forbidden, but he smoothly pivoted. This was not about the throne. He framed it purely as a burning desire to ascend as a true disciple of magic. Evian blinked, completely caught off guard. Was this infamous failure actually preaching about the sacred will of magic? He sounded like a prodigy. Clearly, someone was actively destroying his reputation with vicious rumors. Dropping a massive bombshell, Larson swore he had zero interest in becoming the family patriarch. Every Meaton bloodline member bleeds for that throne their entire life, she countered. Unfazed, our protagonist insisted his ambitions transcended their pathetic succession war. He just craved ultimate power. Still, Evian remained an icy wall of neutrality. He begged. Use your own family wizards, she ordered. Larson laughed bitterly. Trust them? His psychopathic siblings had already bought off every single one of those traitors. Bowing his head, he laid his soul bare. His true endgame? Gaining enough power to protect his defenseless mother. Evian widened her icy eyes in shock. A brutal flashback struck her. A heavily armored knight dragging a screaming peasant woman by her hair, ruthlessly making an example out of her for unpaid taxes. A tiny, desperate boy was viciously clawing at the knight, sobbing for his mother to be spared. The enforcer was pure, unadulterated evil. Clicking his tongue in deep annoyance, the tyrant smoothly unsheathed his gleaming blade. A horrified scream ripped through the air, and then, the cold steel violently pierced the stomach of the woman. The little boy unleashed a soul-shattering shriek for his mom. The knight merely scoffed in disgust. Filthy peasant blood staining my boots, he muttered. As the traumatized boy desperately shook his bleeding mother, the terrified crowd muttered about the senseless cruelty. Hidden within that trembling crowd, a younger Evian witnessed the horrific military abuse. Scowling at the injustice, she stormed into the imposing king's hall. Instantly, heavily armed royal guards charged her with drawn swords. But without flinching, she triggered a massive, glowing energy barrier. Snapping back to reality, she analyzed the 9-year-old 7th Lord, caged by constant surveillance since birth. His mother was merely a discarded maid from the ruined Soso bloodline, and he was nothing but the pathetic youngest son of a magical dynasty, destined to hide in the shadows forever. His burning vow to protect his mother was incredibly genuine, but brutally impossible in this cutthroat world. The Mighton family was swarming with monstrously overpowered successor candidates. Compared to them, this infamous scoundrel of peasant blood was barely an insect. Achieving his grand fantasy was statistically zero. Yet, there was absolutely nothing wrong with his righteous ambition. Not all dreams exist merely to be conquered. Sometimes, the desperate, unyielding chase itself is what makes a dream truly beautiful, she finally explained. It definitely was not just about the sweets. Our guy beamed at her, waiting, until Evian finally broke the silence. Hovering a frosty apple over his chest, she laid out the plan. Basically, she would ice down the massive energy explosion triggered by consuming the Cardian. Then, she would carefully thaw that power, letting his heart devour it. The catch? He might literally turn into a human popsicle. Freeze solid? Larson blinked in shock. Evian casually mentioned that with pure luck, he might defrost in just 2 short years. Bad luck meant decades trapped in ice. Worst case scenario? Absolute death. Larson just stared at her, thinking, seriously, Evian? Why drop that bombshell so casually? Brushing it off, she claimed to be a top-tier frost mage. She promised to use every trick to keep him breathing. Our hero debated if surviving this Cardian power surge was worth the pain. Actually, success rates spike massively in these situations, mainly because elite mages like Evian protect their own people, fiercely guard their inner circle. She called it a lethal gamble, but he saw an epic jackpot just waiting to be claimed, with crazy good odds. Besides, legendary gains demand massive risks. He locked in his choice, prompting Evian to add one tiny detail. As an elite spellcaster, her magical services did not come cheap. If he wanted to survive, he needed to pay the toll. Larson blinked. Pay up? Smirking, Evian admitted her price was honestly just a petty formality. The grand total? 24 chocolates. Meanwhile, in another room, Persia demanded answers. Did he actually consume the Cardian? Yes. Librarian Starlight personally backed him up. Persia narrowed her eyes. You mean the Frost Queen, Evian? Sando nodded. Yes. He somehow melted her frozen exterior. Persia manipulated a magical holographic body, demanding to know his method. Bowing, Sando nervously apologized. Evian possessed insane mana detection skills. Sando could not risk getting close enough to spy on the exact details. Persia scowled. Seriously? She refused to believe he carried something capable of swaying that ice witch. That specific Cardian was an ultra-rare tier artifact. Without a Grandmaster-level mage like Evian running interference, That raw energy would have instantly obliterated his mortal body. He must have figured out her true identity as a librarian, right? Sando confirmed the theory. Persia crossed her arms. If they reached an agreement, did he actually survive the absorption process? Sando nodded firmly. He pulled it off, but a bizarre anomaly occurred. Persia leaned in. What anomaly? Sando whispered. His physical stats skyrocketed impossibly fast. Wait, are you serious? Sando confirmed. Yes, it even left the legendary Evian completely speechless. He devoured the icy mana at a terrifying pace. His vitals never even spiked once. Smirking, Persia noted his core was built incredibly tough, expected from the legendary Might and bloodline. So, Sando, what is the exact estimated timeline for total mana integration? Normal humans need 3 entire years, but a prodigy like him should crush it in 12 months, correct? Actually, based on his insane processing rate, Sando estimated a mere 3 weeks. Persia completely froze. Say what now? Cut to our boy thrashing in his room, screaming about nightmares. His entire body felt like a blazing inferno. Hours later, Larson realized his stamina was essentially infinite after sprinting all night. As the morning rooster screamed, he realized this monstrous vitality was too much. Panting heavily, he felt raw mana boiling inside his core, threatening to violently erupt at any second. Desperate to burn off energy, he roared for Hampton. The sleepy servant rubbed his eyes. Yes, young boss? Larson ordered an immediate trip to the estate waterfall. Standing beneath the roaring torrent, he aggressively shoved his bare hands into the crushing current. Perfect, he thought. Fighting this water pressure drained way more stamina than jogging. Spinning around, he commanded, Hampton, fetch me some heavy lead gear. Slapping on 10 kilograms, a glowing system prompt suddenly appeared. The basic tier physical enhancement skill, Iron Will, was now shielding his frame. System alert. Basic magical combat technique, Iron Will, has initiated leveling. Boom! Basic Iron Will successfully evolved into the advanced Iron Will tier. His defensive stats immediately received a massive cosmic boost. Another notification flashed. Basic use of weight upgraded to skillful use of weight. Instantly, Larson felt like he was floating on pure air. Time to double up. He ordered 20 kilograms. Hampton practically choked in horror. Just 7 days later, our absolute madman demanded 30 kilograms. Fast forward another week, and he casually asked for a crushing 50 kilograms. Hampton panicked, begging his boss, look, your hardcore dedication is epic, but pushing this hard will literally snap your bones. Brushing him off, Larson grinned. I am completely fine. Honestly, he felt like a literal god of energy, completely unbothered by his massive lack of sleep. Cutting back to the spies, Sando reported that his terrifying body had already fully digested the Cardian energy. His physical vessel is an absolute monster. Persia raised an intrigued eyebrow. Really now? Sando explained. This crazy kid scales the roaring estate waterfall daily, using 0 equipment. Flipping a page, Persia paused. Wait, without channeling any spells? Sando nodded. He is purely grinding physical combat arts. Snapping her ancient tome shut, Persia scoffed. Martial techniques level up fast early on, but they hit a brutal progression wall insanely quick. She smirked, betting that harsh reality check would hit our hero like a freight train. Sando insisted. He literally scaled it, hauling a 50-kilogram weight. Persia scoffed. Wait, not 5? Sando nodded grimly. He conquered that 30-meter waterfall in under 5 minutes. Persia threw her head back, cackling wildly. She smirked, praising his boundless energy. But what is his lifespan? Sando panicked. Without intervention, he drops dead in 3 months. Unstable mana floods his entire system. Without that mysterious aura shielding his core, he would literally detonate. If she refuses to step in, he is completely doomed, Persia groaned, calling the whole ordeal a massive headache. She already played her part providing the cardia. Let us watch his struggle. If death knocks on his door, they must extract his secrets of touching Evian's heart. Meanwhile, the main character slicked back his hair, sensing a massive physical glow-up. After absorbing that sweet mana, outside, a maid served steaming tea. So eyed him, worried he burned off way too much weight. Larson brushed it off, bragging about his insane workout shreds. So gently scolded him, reminding him that while aesthetics are cool, absolute health reigns supreme. Flexing his new muscles, Larson confidently declared he felt invincible lately, so she can totally relax. So then smiled. Era, your brewing skills are seriously leveling up. Era blushed fiercely, humbly deflecting the praise. Lady So, your radiant beauty outshines us all daily. Larson mentally noted Era's warm devotion to his mother. Perfect. His mother's ominous blue dot had significantly vanished. Everything was finally falling into place. Suddenly, a glowing system prompt confirmed the Celestial Eye activation. He instantly triggered easy mana cultivation. Sprawled across his bed, Larson started calculating the Hypheon timeline. Today is December 20th, year 218. Stellanatio Eve hits on the 24th, marking a cosmic birth. That star represents Emperor Hyphaeon, the legendary conqueror who forged this massive empire. Basically, it is a grand imperial birthday bash, but Larson could not care less about royal parties. A legendary encounter was brewing. Following the original lore, Ludia crashes into his western estate on December 24th. Her fire tribe blood makes her the ultimate mage killer. The Crimson Butcher, the one-armed sorceress, Ludia, faces total disaster and gets dumped at his gate on December 24th, year 218. The novel barely detailed the clash, but the Third Lady's intel sparked a brilliant, game-changing strategy. Wait, how did she lose an arm? That tragedy fueled Lydia's burning hatred for their bloodline, eventually forging an unbreakable bond with Kassan. As a blazing warrior of the Fire Tribe, Lydia wields absolute inferno magic. Kassan actually forged a blood pact with these flame masters, fighting shoulder to shoulder across brutal war zones. Snagging just one of those legendary ancient artifacts would be an absolute game-changer. Specifically, the Holy Fire Grail Kassan scored from Lydia. Larson's eyes totally bugged out as panic set in. Hold up, an intruder lurks. The glowing system flashed the target's stats. It was his third sister's elite assassin, Shadow. How long has she been spying? The main character knew he had to play dumb. Seriously, canceling his celestial eye technique right now would instantly blind him to her presence. The blue system prompt confirmed his active light mana cultivation state. He absolutely cannot drop the visual skill. Forcing an abrupt shutdown would literally trigger a catastrophic mana backlash. The main character grimaced. What an absolute disaster. Playing dead or just faking sleep was his only shot at making her bounce. Shadow squinted through the gloom, totally baffled. Is this dude actually cultivating in his sleep? Gathering aura requires insane precision. One tiny distraction could literally cause your core to explode. Who on earth completely zones out during spiritual training? This makes zero sense. How is she supposed to report this nonsense? He literally just skimmed a beginner manual from the Starlight Library. Judging by his incredibly weak aura output, she wrote off his training method as absolute trash-tier magic. Yet somehow, despite snoozing through the entire process, his magical flow remained perfectly balanced. She squinted at the textbook, Magic Theory and Mana Cultivation for Dummies. It was super basic. But wait, that manual contained 0 actual breathing techniques. He miraculously absorbed Cartian energy, seamlessly fusing it with his core using Evian. This triggered an insane physical evolution. The newly fused power must be pooling directly in his heart. The craziest part? He looks perfectly fine without a single negative side effect. Honestly, his internal energy only grew smoother. This guy hasn't even reached the second magic circle yet, or unlocked any bodily reinforcement buffs. His heart's structural integrity was freakishly overpowered. She definitely needed to highlight this in tomorrow's intelligence briefing. She vanished into thin air. The main character exhaled deeply, praying the coast was clear. Later, down in the sprawling manor courtyard, right by the glowing holiday tree, Larson summoned Hera and Hampton. They instantly replied, "Yes, young master." He ordered them to follow. Soon after, Hera nervously asked, "Young master, where exactly are we heading?" The main character smirked. "We are hitting the outer far west gate." Hampton blinked in sheer disbelief. "The furthest western boundary? Among our family's 4 western checkpoints, that specific Maiden estate border is literally situated in the middle of nowhere." The main character plotted silently. "Today marks my fateful encounter with every mage's worst nightmare, the blood-soaked butcher and one-armed assassin." Up ahead, frantic guards were struggling in a brutal clash. A voice shrieked, "You absolute trash!" Lydia flared her blazing aura, roaring she'd slaughter everyone. The main character panicked. "Wait, did I arrive too late?" Earlier, when discussing the western boundary, Hampton had cautiously asked, were they planning to raid the 6th Young Master's compound en route? Because he brought an insane stockpile of neurotoxins. The main character flatly refused. Shooting Hampton a side-eye, he smirked. "Are you disappointed?" Hampton shrieked in absolute terror. "Yes, obviously. Wait, no, absolutely not. I am totally fine." Snapping back to reality, a terrifying screech suddenly shattered the air. "Worthless fools." The terrified captain commanded his unit to block her path. Lydia promised absolute carnage. Suddenly, a glowing blue status screen popped up. Core affinity, Inferno magic. Traits: brutally straightforward, fiercely loyal, and fiercely protective of her dad. Larson swallowed hard. Yep, that's Lydia. He seriously doubted the system, calling this rampaging warrior simple-minded. His hesitation was wasting precious time. Hampton trembled. What is this psycho chick up to? The main character calculated quickly. She definitely lacks high-tier toxin resistance. Whipping around, he locked eyes with his lackey. "Deploy the nerve agents immediately. Aim directly for that crazy firebed. and make absolutely certain those fumes knock her out. Lydia scowled fiercely as Hampton chucked a venom-laced bomb straight at her. He hollered, "Eat my paralyzing gas." Lydia unleashed her raging inferno, vowing to cremate them alive. A massive shockwave erupted, sending toxic clouds billowing around Lydia, who violently coughed and shrieked, "You absolute scumbags." The main character instantly realized he had to hijack this chaotic battlefield right now. Dashing toward the collapsing girl, a stubborn sentry suddenly blocked his path, barking, "State your business. How did you breach the perimeter? Identify yourselves instantly." Larson furrowed his brow, shooting back, "I literally live here. How are these clueless NPCs guarding our borders?" He couldn't fully roast them since this checkpoint was technically his clan's property, but their incompetence was genuinely staggering. Honestly, the main character mused, it's really just that Lydia's combat prowess is incredibly overpowered. The soldier interrogated him further. The main character coldly declared he was claiming the prisoner. The guard vehemently protested this bold move. "Allow us to formally introduce our boss." Hampton dramatically cleared his throat, announcing, "Behold, a majestic sorcerer, carrying the supreme bloodline of the Maton dynasty. A transcendent genius destined to conquer the arcane arts and guide this dark world into blinding light. He's a wanderer destined for an epic saga." Larson stared at the guy, thinking, if left completely unchecked, he'd seriously start belting out worship hymns. He announced his epic identity, the seventh heir, Larson Mighton. "Did it click now?" The annoyed guard barked. "What absolute garbage is this?" Our main character flinched. "Excuse me?" the sentry yelled. "These clueless fools possess zero idea what Lord Larson actually resembles. That trash isn't this dashing." Our hero stood paralyzed. Was that a brutal diss or a massive flex? He basically just burned fat. Larson scowled and demanded his name. He'd heavily etch it into memory. Would a random suicidal fraud seriously march straight out of the noble estate and boldly cosplay the notorious seventh young master? The sentry yielded slightly, but our main character ruthlessly interrupted, spitting, "The entire world recognizes the seventh lord as a vile, pig-faced scumbag. Would any clueless idiot truly possess the sheer absolute audacity to deliberately mimic that trash? Not unless they desperately crave death." Hampton mulled over this hardcore logic, yet his boss currently radiated pure, terrifying aura. Larson smirked, declaring that if doubts still remained, he should immediately dispatch a runner to the main manor to verify this absolute truth. The trembling sentry stammered out that he already sent a scout. Larson's brow furrowed, warning darkly, if this blinding arrogance continues unchecked, he'll personally guarantee absolute hell once his true identity as the infamous seventh young lord is officially confirmed. The sentry instantly collapsed, kissing the dirt while desperately begging the majestic seventh lord for sweet mercy. "Young master, but why forcibly capture that specific chick?" Our hero froze internally. Why indeed? His brain completely blanked on formulating a solid, logical excuse. He cleared his throat, blushing awkwardly. "She is totally gorgeous." The guard nodded, instantly understanding the vibe. The bewildered retainers exchanged highly confused glances and swiftly secured Ludia with heavy magic ropes. Larson analyzed his captive as a glowing system notification suddenly pinged, warning that, because this drastically altered the timeline's established fate, an unpredictable anomaly had triggered. He stared wide-eyed at the holographic text, totally stunned. An unpredictable anomaly? His familiar novel universe was actively warping. Ludia snapped awake, thrashing wildly to unleash a primal screech, but heavy gag tape muffled her fury. Larson silently sweat-dropped. He could barely decipher her muffled noises, though it violently radiated pure profanity. This girl was basically operating on a single brain cell. He absolutely had to dumb down his entire approach. Our protagonist leaned in, smoothly asking, "Her old man is violently ill, right? He'll definitely save him." Ludia glared back, entirely bewildered, as he casually continued, claiming his own mother suffered similarly. He practically read her mind. That distinct lunar embroidery stamped directly over her racing heart screamed, "She's a Hyaron sorceress." Wielding fierce flames obviously means she belongs to the renowned Fire Clan, correct? Hampton stood paralyzed, completely mind-blown by this hyper-specific intel. Larson casually explained that the fiery Hyaron domain borders the deep southern legendary Dragon Peaks, where a devastating plague was currently wiping out the population. Hera lingered in the shadowy background, silently analyzing every single micro-expression. Our main character confidently declared he possessed the ultimate medical cheat code. She suicidally stormed this estate, craving his family's legendary antidote, right? Ludia violently struggled to speak, prompting our hero to sigh. If her brain actually processed his insane offer, simply nod once. Ludia frantically nodded, and Larson instantly commanded Hera to rip that silencing gag off. His loyal shadow mercilessly peeled the harsh adhesive away, causing Ludia to gasp in sheer shock. Larson smirked. Has the Spitfire finally cooled off? Ludia whispered. Is he genuinely offering complete salvation? Our protagonist scoffed at her sheer disrespect. Whatever, skipping useless noble formalities saves precious time. Crossing his arms with absolute confidence, he reconfirmed his promise to intervene. Ludia suspiciously demanded his hidden motives. Our hero smoothly deflected. Does the reason even matter? Her gaze hit the dirt, bitterly muttering, corrupt aristocrats never distribute free miracles. Larson raised an eyebrow. Who preached that garbage? Ludia whispered, my father. Our protagonist instantly countered. Then why embark on a suicide mission expecting zero free handouts from wealthy lords? Ludia confessed she fully planned to barter, boasting possession of an ultra-rare treasure. Our hero's pupils dilated with greedy shock. A massive trade? An ultra-rare artifact? She absolutely meant the legendary Sacred Flame Chalice. This was the exact overpowered cheat item Casson looted in the web novel. He vowed to absolutely eradicate her father's plague. Ludia gasped in pure disbelief. Seriously? Larson smirked dangerously. Yeah, but this divine miracle demands an astronomical fee. Ludia desperately admitted she was completely broke. Our hero smoothly offered a future payment plan. She nervously questioned the price. He shrugged. Honestly, no clue. We'll calculate that massive debt after your dad breathes easy again. Ludia desperately begged him to unleash his healing magic. Larson leaned closer. So, you'll actually pay up? Ludia fiercely swore to sacrifice absolutely anything to clear her debt. Our hero slyly countered. Didn't you brag about hoarding legendary loot? Larson internally cheered. Jackpot secured. He dramatically pivoted toward Hampton, commanding him to harvest their 1,000-year-old divine herb and massively distribute its ashes across the entire blighted Huron province. Just brew that legendary leaf in shimmering silver seawater for exactly 18 minutes to completely annihilate the cursed plague. Hampton blinked in utter shock. Sir, this medical formula sounds completely insane. Could you possibly break down the alchemy behind it? Our protagonist coldly ordered him to stop questioning his absolute genius intellect. Hampton stared back, totally awestruck, before dropping into a deep bow, loudly swearing to flawlessly execute the mission. Kneeling in the dirt, the guard mentally fanboyed. My lord drips pure absolute charisma. Hera smoothly intervened. Young master, risking punishment for my pure audacity. Might I interrogate you? Larson shot her a side-eye. Speak. She desperately wondered how he acquired this mythical prescription. Hera admitted with brutal honesty that she was intensely fascinated. Her brain failed to process this miracle. Our hero smirked, dripping pure swagger. Because I am a Mighton. Hera initially froze in stunned silence. Bowing deeply, she praised his absolute masterclass. This sheer presence, it felt like the legendary patriarch himself stood right before her. In his absolute prime, the main character smirked. Lydia, time to cut you loose. Her jaw literally dropped. Wait, what did he say? How did you know that? She shrieked. I never dropped my name. Larson completely froze. Absolute nightmare. He totally blew his cover. Forcing his racing heartbeat down, he played it cool. Is my knowing your identity really that mind-blowing? Lydia instantly shot back. Yes, beyond creepy. The main character leaned in. But isn't it crazier that I casually burned 1,000-year-old mythical herbs on an absolute nobody? That makes zero sense, she whispered. Larson smirked, pressing his advantage. What if I dropped a massive, classified secret, exclusive to the elite Mighton bloodline? Refusing eye contact, Lydia muttered. Total insanity. He stepped closer. Still think it is crazy. If my actions practically hand you a golden ticket? Again, she stubbornly echoed. Pure insanity. Larson's voice dropped. Your eyes just screamed. A desperate craving for your absolute savior's blood. Are we finally tracking here? Swallowing hard, Lydia barely nodded. I understand. Then realize you just trashed every ounce of my divine mercy, the main character barked. Crushed by massive guilt, Lydia stared at the floor. I apologize. He tilted his head. Come again? I am genuinely sorry, she whimpered. Invading her personal space, he coldly demanded. Speak up. I am deaf here. I messed up. I am sorry, she screamed out. He thought. Perfect timing. Apology accepted. But you are officially grounded here, he declared. Panic flared in her eyes. Wait, why am I held hostage? Did your memory get wiped? The main character snapped. You literally ambushed the elite Mighton guards. Trembling with absolute terror, Lydia stammered. That is factual. Larson pushed harder. You claimed it was to rescue your dad, but how did they react? Staring at the dirt, she choked out. They called my existence pure street trash. Laughing like absolute demons, they basically said my dying dad meant less than nothing. They mocked that a peasant's life holds zero value to the Mightons. Hot tears stained her battered hands. I swear I will slaughter them. He was my whole world, yet they ordered him to rot. The main character instantly signaled Hera. Release the bindings. Absolutely. My lord. Scrubbing her tear-soaked face, Lydia stared blankly. Who actually are you? Why show such bizarre kindness? The main character chuckled. Me? The name is Larson Myton. Her brain completely short-circuited. Larson Myton? Pointing a trembling finger, she blurted out, the legendary family loser? The main character's eyebrow twitched. Is my street cred really that abysmal? Lydia instantly nodded. Basically, society calls you irredeemable garbage. Flashing a broken smile, she whispered, but they lied. You have a golden soul. Suddenly, a blue system interface violently pinged, detecting massive plot deviations. Warning, butterfly effect triggered. Larson mentally groaned. Not another crazy timeline shift. The ultimate mage slayer, Cassan's right-hand shadow, the legendary, one-armed Crimson Butcher. Am I literally recruiting a walking disaster as a temporary sidekick? Whatever, let's just watch this play out. Moments later, a sharp knock echoed. Hampton confidently announced he had successfully raided the vaults for the requested 1,000-year-old mystical flora. Next stop, the territory of Hieron. Deploying immediately. The main character nodded. Perfect timing. What is our estimated travel window to the border? Roughly 72 hours, my lord. Hampton respectfully bowed. Forgive my bold tongue, but might this lowly servant request some crucial context? Why waste our resources rescuing that peasant Lydia? The main character smoothly countered. Because watching pure injustice destroy innocent families over totally curable diseases is absolutely sickening, especially when a father's life hangs in the chaotic balance. Throwing some spare change saves a universe. Hampton's eyes practically sparkled, bowing to this philosophical masterclass. The main character blinked. What masterclass exactly? The loyal butler silently worshipped him. True legendary noble houses never blindside the utterly defenseless masses, shielding the crushed underdogs. This absolute Sigma mindset is exactly how top-tier magical dynasties conquer the next epic era, by becoming absolute beacons of blinding justice. I shall swiftly conquer this mission, my lord. Larson internally sweat-dropped. Honestly, I strictly want to snatch that overpowered fiery grail artifact. But spinning this noble hero propaganda absolutely secures supreme loyalty. Way better than sounding completely greedy. 48 hours later, an intimidating Persia smirked. Rumors say, our little piglet adopted a fascinating new plaything. She demanded a VIP showcase. Let us see what shiny garbage this adorable menace dragged home. Her piercing gaze locked onto the main character. Who on earth are you? Our gene pool never produced an absolute heartthrob like this. I am literally your little brother, Larson. Crossing her arms, Persia gave a predatory grin. Fascinating glow-up. You officially have my undivided attention. You are burying massive secrets. Larson smoothly deflected. I am a totally open book. Mentally panicking, he added. Except the tiny glitch that I literally authored this entire universe. Persia purred. When did my trash sibling get this insanely aesthetic? Visuals are everything. The main character visibly flinched. A terrifying, sub-zero aura threatened to literally stop his beating heart. Instantly, an emergency holographic prompt exploded. Ultimate alert. The passive Iron Will beginner combat art forcefully triggered to shield his physical vessel. He was utterly shook. 1 millisecond of direct eye contact practically forced his survival instincts to autocast. Totally oblivious, Persia hummed thoughtfully. Did this absolute monster achieve this godly aura in a mere 21 days? Wow, the ugly duckling vanished. If his power scaling continues snowballing, I will pamper him forever. Swatting her hand away, the main character rejected the cringe affection. Unfazed, Persia pushed further. Larson figured this was just another twisted test. He declared his ambition to become her ultimate rival, or a fierce ally. Being her pampered pet wasn't on his agenda. Persia flashed a wicked smirk, cooing that his defiance made him absolutely adorable. She purred about turning him into a breathtaking masterpiece by ripping his head right off his shoulders. Our main character's eyes snapped wide open, begging her to drop the terrifying dark humor. Persia just cackled. Did he seriously think she was bluffing? Brushing it off, she demanded to see his new plaything. Larson's mind raced. Why was she suddenly targeting Lydia? Was it her explosive fire affinity? As a legendary mage, Persia absolutely despised sharing the spotlight with any other spellcasters who wielded her signature element. Did she sense Lydia's blazing fire tribe bloodline, sparking her notorious jealousy over unmatched raw potential? He couldn't let the original novel's tragic plot repeat. He fiercely claimed the girl as his own. Persia blinked in sheer disbelief as he doubled down, stating he claimed her and wouldn't just hand over his prize to satisfy her twisted curiosity. Instantly, Persia unleashed a crushing wave of mana toward him, demanding, was he actually daring to challenge her authority? A glowing system screen popped up. alerting that his beginner magical combat art, advanced iron will, was desperately blocking her overwhelming pressure. Persia sneered, mocking his pathetic resistance. How dare this filthy half-blood, possessing just a crumb of martial magic talent, openly defy her? The system chimed again. Easy-to-learn mana cultivation had successfully triggered the awakening of his legendary celestial eye. Our protagonist shielded his face, groaning as her monstrous aura crushed down on him. Suddenly, Persia's murderous aura vanished, offering him a dangerous gamble. He choked out, "A gamble?" Persia smirked, confirming he studied combat magic. He gritted his teeth, answering, "Yes, just the absolute basics." Persia arrogantly declared she would fight using only a single finger, completely sealing her elemental powers, relying strictly on raw martial magic arts. Larson gasped, questioning if she truly trained in physical combat. Persia shrugged lazily. Just a bit. She merely skimmed a manual for exactly 5 minutes. A fierce grin crossed his face. Fine. He would unleash his entire arsenal to crush her. Persia purred that she absolutely adored his sharp wits. Without warning, she unleashed a blazing mana serpent, striking straight at his throat. The system flashed. The celestial eye shatters the illusion. He clenched his fists tight and smashed straight through her phantom aura. Persia's eyes gleamed, realizing his strength had skyrocketed since their last clash. She proposed a wager. Win, and his precious little pet walks free. He better fight with absolute all. Our hero braced himself as Persia darkly promised that if he bored her today, she would obliterate his newfound prize. Standing his ground, he echoed his own fierce vow. He would burn through his absolute limits to conquer her. Persia chuckled, deeply thrilled by this unexpected rush of pure entertainment. He wasn't even her high-ranking 5th or prestigious 6th brother, just a pathetic outcast discarded by their father. The protagonist exploded forward, but Persia scoffed. Way too slow. She violently swatted him away, but he seamlessly rolled and stuck a perfect landing. Persia raised an eyebrow, questioning why he chose a reckless assault over evasion. She figured he finally picked up some shielding spells, praising his survival instincts. Larson's mind raced, knowing a prolonged battle meant certain doom. The massive power gap made a war of attrition suicidal. He couldn't rely on dodging and landing cheap counterstrikes forever. A system notification flared. The beginner martial magic art, advanced iron will, is currently fortifying the user's physical vessel. He gritted his teeth in agony. A mere finger graze had completely scrambled his internal mana pathways into a chaotic mess. The system repeatedly chimed, "Easy-to-learn mana cultivation is stabilizing the user's mana circle. Easy-to-learn mana cultivation is forcibly regulating the core." Larson realized this was his one and only opening. The glowing interface announced, "The beginner martial magic art, utilization of weight is now fully active." Our hero glared at Persia's stance, dead set on sweeping her exposed right leg. He viciously hooked her ankle, hoisting her off balance and slamming her hard onto the cold stone. "Got her," he cheered internally. The system flashed. The beginner martial magic technique, weight utilization, was maintained with absolute flawless consistency. He launched a brutal follow-up punch, only to freeze in pure shock. Searing pain exploded, making him feel like his fist struck solid titanium. He wheezed, guessing she had instantly deployed an impenetrable mana shield. Persia smirked, admitting he only landed that sweep because she intentionally dropped her guard. Larson grunted, defending that it was his absolute best shot. Persia coldly asked if he truly capitalized on it, just to unleash such a wildly primitive strike. Our hero snapped back, asking if his move didn't resemble true combat magic. Persia scoffed, declaring this exact vulgarity is why she despises martial magic entirely. Larson pointed out her toxic attitude, but she still got knocked down. Persia's eyes narrowed dangerously before she softly agreed. With a single, terrifying flick of her finger, she wrapped him in suffocating mana, levitating him helplessly. Without warning, she violently hurled him against the stone wall, sending blood spraying from his lips. Persia casually announced his victory, promising to ignore his little pet. Yet, his defiance had dangerously sparked her deep fascination. She pondered silently. Just like Sando reported, his physical endurance was freakishly solid. Even holding back to just one finger, it was completely baffling that he actually parried a strike loaded with genuine destructive force. Desperate to gauge his true awakened potential, she intentionally amplified the lethality of her final blow. Despite surviving, she deemed the boy fundamentally weak. Smirking, she promised they would inevitably clash again. Larson. He scowled at the smoldering scorch mark Persia left behind. Phasing into the next room, her lips curled upward. How truly fascinating. He actually devoured her mana. She stood there, completely stunned. Sure, absorption mages exist, but his method felt totally off. That is exactly why she went overboard, injecting pure healing energy too. If he masters this energy, he can awaken it too. Sando smirked, She is totally obsessed with the 7th young master. Persia raised an eyebrow. The guy is built different, right? Sando nodded. Still, she literally handed him a power-up. Persia sighed. Absolutely. But if he fails to tame that wild energy, he will straight up explode. A system alert popped up, confirming hidden conditions met. The legendary self-healing magical combat art finally reached enlightenment. Our boy gripped his chest, realizing fate just handed him a massive jackpot from this crazy encounter. The holographic screen flashed, confirming his self-healing combat art was rapidly repairing his shattered flesh. However, this overpowered healing art aggressively drained his mana reserves. Luckily, this supreme healing technique perfectly synchronizes with his beginner-friendly mana cultivation method. This flawless resonance between skills, internal mana, and outside forces triggered the ultimate evolution. Evolution requirements unlocked. His entire physical form began morphing. He stared at the screen, utterly confused. Wait, what? Pure agony ripped through him as he screamed. The system coldly warned about the bone-crushing pain of evolution. Collapsing onto the cold floor, he desperately realized he had to stay conscious. His very cells felt like they were disintegrating into ash. Toxic black sludge poured out from his ears, eyes, and mouth. Meanwhile, the glowing interface confirmed his passive magical combat recovery. Kicked into overdrive, he felt his bones completely shatter, only to reforge themselves at a terrifying speed. The digital window announced his rookie magical combat skill. The legendary Advanced Iron Will was fusing deeply into his newly forged muscles. His basic mana cultivation flawlessly regulated this chaotic transformation. The girls barged inside, with Lydia screaming his name. Hera gasped. Is it poison? Covering her face, she quickly deduced. Wait, this is no poison. Assassins cannot hit this hard. Is this a cloud of pure impurities? The system flashed red. Extreme mana required for the ongoing cellular regeneration. Larson panicked. My energy is getting drained instantly, but where? A critical system error popped up. His mana pool was entirely empty. Insufficient mana detected, threatening to halt the entire physical reconstruction. If this vital restructuring process fails right now, he faces catastrophic backlash. He cursed internally. Absolute nightmare. I am completely dry. Out of nowhere, scorching energy enveloped him as he wondered, wait, is Lydia doing this? She blasted her pure flames into him, screaming his name. Utterly clueless about his condition, she just wanted to save his life. The interface verified massive pure mana absorption. Larson recognized the legendary Crimson Flame, the very fire he authored in his novel, possessing insane cleansing properties. Lydia likely unleashed it, just desperately trying to heal him. Right then. Yet, this complete accident became the ultimate cheat code he needed. He whispered his gratitude, his imposing shadow cutting through the blazing inferno. The system finalized the process, physical evolution successfully achieved. The chaotic, unwritten timeline of this universe dramatically shifted forward. Hera shrieked, "Young master!" Lydia cried out in pure terror. Meanwhile, the system revealed his supreme core attribute, the legendary heavenly body, awakening deep inside. It was fully online. He had finally unlocked the ultimate foundation for wielding god-tier combat magic. Our boy stepped out of the smoke, flexing his newly forged fists. The holographic prompt confirmed his supreme core attribute, the fabled heavenly body, was completely unsealed. This perfectly met the hidden prerequisites for mastering devastating magical combat arts. Larson grinned. The heavenly body. Literally the most overpowered physique I gave the main character. This exact build, when fused with the Sword God class, evolves into the invincible Sword Emperor attribute. This was the original hero's starting gear, paired with the heavenly eye. Why is the universe constantly forcing the protagonist's destiny right onto him? Snapping back to reality, he commanded Hera to fetch fresh clothes, which she instantly obeyed. He decided to keep his overpowered awakening an absolute secret. Moments later, Lydia chimed in eagerly. Wait, is her father fully healed? Hera smiled, holding up a letter directly from him. Lydia gasped with pure joy, recognizing his handwriting instantly. The urgent message from her dad confirmed that the entire village was recovering rapidly, all thanks to the Seventh Lord's secret medical formula, crushing the deadly plague completely. Wiping away happy tears, Lydia chuckled softly, feeling a massive weight lift off her shoulders. He smiled inwardly, actually vibing with this wholesome moment. Lydia stepped closer, vowing to repay his massive favor. Larson blinked. Debt? What do you mean? Lydia beamed. Obviously, you literally saved us. Crossing his arms, he smirked. Well, I guess I did. Staring him dead in the eye, Lydia declared she would officially become his exclusive fire contractor. His mind raced. A fire pact. Wait, that is the exact legendary contract Casson forged with her at the Great Nordanti Canyon. A glowing system prompt revealed a fire pact. It was a sacred vow the tribe forged only once per lifetime. They surrender their very existence and blazing auras entirely to their chosen destiny partner. This ultimate sacrifice meant everything to them. Larson panicked, realizing that forging this bond would completely shatter the original timeline. The ruthless butcher, destined to become Cassine's unstoppable weapon, would be wiped from existence. But why care about plot lines when his own survival hung by a thread? He desperately needed to break Cassine's grip before hitting 17. Larson cleared his throat, cautiously accepting her wish. A radiant smile crossed Lydia's face as she vowed, "I, Lydia, pledge my soul to the eternal flame." The main character froze. "A literal fire pact," the system chimed, scanning the magical data with its celestial eye. Hidden otherworldly mechanics unlocked. The contractor instantly gained absolute dominion over the user's raging fury. Larson gasped internally. In his original draft, the pure-hearted Lydia totally lost her mind and went on a terrifying rampage. The glowing interface warned that possessing this rage-controlling ability would grant someone total command over the contractor's chaotic mana. However, the fatal backlash would instantly kill the Oathgiver. Wait, literal death? Larson felt sick to his stomach. "Lydia, stop. You do not have to force this." Blinking innocently, Lydia tilted her head. "But why not? It is wonderful." The main character frantically shook his head. She insisted her father called it a beautiful blessing. When pushed for a real explanation, her eyes widened in confusion. "It just is," she stammered, freezing up. The main character gripped her shoulders tightly, demanding she focus on his words. By sealing this fiery bond, she was literally signing away her life. "Sacrifice?" Lydia echoed, completely bewildered. "Is that somehow wrong?" Larson stared in disbelief. "How is dying cool?" He aggressively explained that her fiery mana explosion would make him absolutely powerless to save her. Tilting her head, she carelessly asked why that even mattered. "Because you will perish." Lydia just smiled, claiming that burning away for his sake was the ultimate tribal honor, a glorious martyrdom. The main character clutched his hair, terrified by her innocence. He fiercely refused to be her executioner. Carrying the crushing guilt of her demise was impossible. Gently patting his trembling shoulder, the fearless girl tried comforting him. "Relax, you are overthinking this. I will survive." Larson groaned internally. Every single word escaping her mouth dragged him deeper into a suffocating death trap. Snatching her wrist, he sternly reminded the clueless 9-year-old child that they were way too young for magical contracts. She stubbornly argued age meant absolutely nothing for the pact. Larson countered fiercely, reminding her he was not born from flames. Imposing radical suicide rituals on outsiders was insane. The main character locked eyes. Exactly. He fiercely refused to let this twisted destiny consume him. "You really reject my sacred bond?" she whimpered. The main character winked reassuringly, explaining that carrying a literal life was simply too heavy. Being mere kids, their minds could not possibly grasp the crushing gravity behind such an apocalyptic blood oath just yet. "Fine, we will pause for now," she chirped. The holographic display instantly confirmed the terrifying blood pact had shattered. She brightly declared him a truly honorable guy. Caught off guard, the main character blinked. "Why say that? The blazing ritual is undeniably sacred. The chosen guardian must tread carefully." Stunned, the main character mumbled, "Really?" Her dad claimed her fragile nature made her the ultimate candidate for this one-way sacrificial pledge. He taught her that anyone rejecting such immense power out of pure moral decency was a true hero. Wrapped in swirling magical aura, her father had fiercely ordered her to eternally cling to someone that incredibly trustworthy. Minutes later, the tension faded as Lydia gleefully clutched a sweet chocolate bar, cheering about the delicious snack. "This tastes like heaven. You save my papa and feed me candy." The main character gently interrupted her sugar rush. "It is time to hand over that legendary item we discussed." Blinking, she gasped, suddenly remembering the crucial artifact. The main character mentally cheered. It had to be the Holy Grail of Fire, the tribe's ultimate god-tier relic, hidden upon Dragon Mountain. Located right near Hieron, the blazing chalice rested inside a sealed ancient tomb that only pure tribal blood could unlock. She eagerly bragged about stashing something amazing close by. "Wait, close by?" he echoed. She nodded, hyping up her treasure. Larson leaned in, praying to hear the words Holy Fire Grail. "Does this epic loot actually have a name? A name?" She stared blankly, entirely clueless. The main character face-palmed hard, utterly devastated by her adorable ignorance. Happily munching chocolate, she casually mentioned it was just some incredibly valuable golden cup. Larson sighed, regretting his vague world-building. Activating his celestial eye, he decided to scan the divine relic himself. The system interface flashed. The legendary Holy Fire Grail could spawn the mythical fire flower water just once every century. This sacred elixir holds absolute purification authority, packing enough divine power to obliterate and cleanse any dark corruption, invading your body or twisting your mind. Simply put, You become completely immune to lethal poisons and totally untouchable by mind control magic. It even cures deadly stomach cramps from eating absolute garbage. It is the ultimate immortality cheat code. The glowing interface confirmed that was the entire archived lore. Larson frowned. But why? Whatever. It does not matter. He signaled Lydia to leave, and she nodded softly. Hera stepped up. Young master, should I summon a guard? Larson blinked. A guard? Then it clicked. Exactly. Whenever a Maton noble leaves the estate, an elite squad of battle mages shadows their every single move. Even a completely tossed-aside trash heir like him gets trailed. What believable excuse could he possibly use to visit Huron? Why would the ruthless main house let him hunt a legendary relic? He absolutely cannot lie. Faking it is literal suicide. A terrifying 7th Circle Archmage would be stalking his every single breath, even his goddamn bathroom breaks. The real nightmare? Every single elite guard secretly backs one of his vicious siblings. Honestly, that makes perfect sense, since the bloody succession war heavily divided the noble family, forcing everyone to aggressively recruit top-tier talents into their own deadly factions. But walking away from that divine grail? No way. Knowing he will be heavily tracked, should he risk everything for the relic or fold? Screw it, he made his choice. The veteran battle mage Jaffel, who absolutely despised Larson, glared at the request. What does this pathetic loser want? Me as his bodyguard? 3 years prior, that arrogant brat grabbed his face, spitting that he was just a miserable guard dog while Larson ruled. Do you get it? Nod your head, you moron. Flashing back to the present, Larson dramatically clutched his head. Why the hell was his 6-year-old self so toxic? Well, at least this guy wields 7th Circle power. Hera sighed. Young master, what official reason should I submit? Larson smirked. The reason? Just tell them I am going out to party. Write down that I crave their famous local chocolate. Hera sweated, thinking that would absolutely fail. Shockingly, the paperwork passed. Entered Jaffel, the fiercely proud Maton enforcer. Larson stared down from his grand balcony. Welcome. Jaffel scowled, with raw disgust, growling. A bitter greeting to the young master. Marching inside, the mage scoffed, noting how much the kid had strangely shifted. Just a bit, Larson replied smoothly. Jaffel narrowed his eyes, demanding a straight answer. Wondering why I picked you? Larson teased. Exactly, Jaffel snapped. Since I am just the family dog. Larson internally winced. Wow, he held that grudge. Guess archmages never forget an insult. Larson boldly declared that a loyal hound must fiercely protect its master. Jaffel's aura violently flared with rage, while Larson sweated. Damn, a furious 7th Circle mage is genuinely terrifying. But dropping a weak apology now would never magically fix this broken bridge. He locked eyes, stating that among all the estate's hounds, Jaffel was the absolute strongest. At least this guy would never commit treason. Jaffel scoffed. Do you actually trust me? Larson fired back. Hell no. Jaffel froze. What? I do not trust you personally. Larson smirked. But I trust your pure ambition. You are incredibly greedy, right? He analyzed him perfectly. Jaffel was insanely driven by selfish desires. That made him utterly predictable and strangely reliable, because the mage would fiercely cooperate as long as their ultimate goals perfectly aligned. Following the original timeline, he blindly served the 4th brother, Scion, before ruthlessly betraying him for the 2nd sister, Evelia. How does my ambition relate to guarding you? Jaffel growled. Larson grinned. Because one day, I will grant you exactly what you crave. What absolute nonsense, Jaffel sneered, mocking the very idea that a powerless, discarded failure could possibly offer an archmage. Larson dropped the bomb. Even though you currently kneel to my 4th brother, you secretly plan to defect to my 2nd sister, right? Jaffel's mind violently short-circuited. What? How did this brat uncover my secret? Jaffel masked his shock. I am a neutral guard. I serve no master. Larson smirked, knowing he struck a nerve. Larson countered. Your trembling voice says otherwise, but I do not care about your petty schemes. Honestly, why else? Would a guard shield his lord? Jaffel sighed heavily. Fair point. Larson's eyes glowed. As a true Maton, I command your protection. Jaffel bowed stiffly, accepting the royal decree. His mind raced frantically. Was this actually the same pathetic loser? What awakened inside him? Wild rumors claimed Larson brutally crushed the 6th young master and impossibly formed his first mana core, without any grandmaster's guidance. But the most terrifying detail? It was not just a basic magic circle. Despite having just a single ring, Jaffel sensed an overwhelming mana capacity, rivaling a 2nd Circle prodigy. Even the brilliant 2nd sister, Evelia, never possessed that much explosive energy upon awakening. I must watch this kid closely. Something legendary is definitely brewing in the shadows. Soon, they strolled down a wooded path, with Ludia buzzing about seeing her dad. The main character scanned the area, realizing they had reached Hiron, Ludia's actual hometown. The Fire Tribe once possessed absolute power to dominate the ancient continent, but their patron deity, the legendary Phoenix, completely drained its divine energy, causing their brutal downfall. Honestly though, this place just gives off strong, abandoned wilderness vibes. A stray hound barked aggressively, right before a piercing scream echoed. "Daddy!" Larson winced at the deafening shriek, while Hampton quickly bowed. "Young master, please forgive my extreme carelessness. I completely failed to anticipate your arrival." The main character simply brushed it off. Meanwhile, Ludia frantically demanded, "Where's Dad?" Hampton gently answered, "He's resting inside." Ludia immediately dashed forward, screaming for her father, leaving Hampton scrambling behind. Jaffel eyed Larson suspiciously, his instincts screaming that something felt totally off. Recalling the boy's previous claims, he realized this guy perfectly hides his true motives. Inside, her father spotted her, tearfully shouting her name. Bowing deeply, they expressed endless gratitude to our hero. Jaffel intensely scrutinized the girl, absolutely stunned by her explosive mana. Her blazing aura was insane for a 9-year-old. How did Larson score such an ally? Ludia beamed. "Dad, Larson is absolutely amazing. I dragged him here for a special reward." Her father nodded, agreeing she totally needed to repay his massive favor. Jaffel scoffed internally. This absolute wildcard acting kind? And what kind of shady reward are we even talking about? These villagers treated them like absolute royalty. What strings did Larson pull? Actually, his exact methods barely even mattered now. The entire squad was left completely clueless. What insane master plan was he secretly orchestrating right under their noses? Ludia excitedly yanked the main character's hand, dragging him toward his mystery prize. Soon, they reached an ancient stone tomb, making Jaffel scowl. Suspicion gnawed at him. "Right here," Ludia announced proudly. Jaffel's mind raced a literal graveyard. Shutting her eyes, Ludia chanted, "Let any la la lada." Glowing mana erupted, levitating the boulders as a dazzling chalice shot out. Jaffel's jaw practically dropped. What on earth was that? Blazing crimson flames danced perfectly with the artifact's blinding golden radiance. Was Larson's candy obsession just a massive cover-up? An incredibly intense magical current radiated heavily from that mysterious, ancient vessel. Our hero locked eyes on the prize, instantly recognizing the legendary Holy Fire Grail. The interface chimed. Hidden lore of this alternate dimension unlocked. Warning. World narrative predictability has drastically plummeted to dangerously low levels. Rule check. Absolutely no one can consume the flame-infused elixir from this sacred relic without securing an official Fire Tribe pact. If any unauthorized player recklessly attempts to chug this divine, burning liquid, they'll suffer agonizing internal destruction, guaranteeing a brutal game over. Larson scanned the terrifying warning repeatedly, his mind racing. Did he seriously need to forge a magical bond just to take a sip? Suddenly, the system flashed another alert. The second this fiery nectar hits open oxygen, it starts vanishing. Every passing second ruthlessly drains its legendary, game-changing buffs. Larson panicked internally. This godly item was rapidly turning into basic tap water. With zero time left, he had to make a move. Forging that blazing pact meant he could totally manipulate this incredibly naive, overpowered little girl. Even elite players like Casson struggled here. Could he actually pull it off? Still, skipping this epic buff was impossible. How would the original author, Chaesong Men, handle this? Staring at Ludia, Larson boldly proposed sealing the flame contract. Ludia's eyes sparkled. Wait, for real? He urged her to speedrun the ritual before time ran out. Unleashing a massive wave of raw energy, Ludia agreed. Instantly, the interface announced, "The Holy Fire Grail's awakened form unlocks. Sacred Covenant accepted." Shock completely paralyzed Jaffel as he watched the rusty relic reclaim its breathtaking mythic glory. Candy and tourism? What absolute garbage, Jaffel fumed. Larson had clearly masterminded this entire insane heist from the very beginning, and that blinding aura, he'd never witnessed anything so flawlessly pure. It rivaled the terrifying might of the Third Lady herself. He was dead, sure. The intel on this supposedly trash-tier 7th young master was completely wrong. Breathing heavily, Ludia cheered. Pact sealed. Larson smirked. Perfect. The glowing screen flashed. Pact finalized. Ludia is officially bound. Warning. A monumental butterfly effect has shattered the main timeline. Searing flames totally engulfed Larson's body for a split second before vanishing completely. Frowning at the sudden void, the screen chimed again. The artifact has recorded your divine bond. Item upgraded to the Pure Holy Fire Grail. Snatching the glowing prize, floored by the system's notification, he fearlessly chugged the mythical elixir, bracing himself for the ultimate magical impact. Wait, this just tastes like fizzy water? He thought, totally underwhelmed. Then, the interface confirmed his massive achievement. He had successfully consumed the legendary essence. Now, he desperately needed absolute mental focus to dominate that volatile, explosive power. By effortlessly activating his beginner mana breathing techniques, he forcefully chained the blazing aura. It's literally burning my core, Larson realized, feeling the terrifying heat surge into his heart. Dropping down, he barked at his guard to secure the perimeter. Larson totally banked on him. Jaffel watched in absolute shock. Basic mana cultivation usually was not anything mind-blowing, but doing it totally exposed out here, the absolute trust was insane. One tiny disruption during this process, and his entire body would straight up shatter. Yet, the kid radiated pure confidence. Recalling the main character's promise, Jaffel swore to protect him with his life. Suddenly, the system interface flashed. Beginner magical combat arts, auto recovery fully engaged. Larson smirked, realizing that liquid was way beyond normal water. A blazing inferno inside him sent massive, pulsing heat waves straight to his core. The system chimed again. Basic mana arts successfully tamed the wild flames. The blazing flora elixir pumped flawlessly through his veins. Drained by its overwhelming power, his divine sight shut down from 0 mana. He definitely needed to decode this insane buff later once his celestial vision recharged. Moments later, Jaffel carefully checked in. All done? Larson nodded, admitting the epic breakthrough took way longer than expected, and hyped his guard for holding the line. Jaffel brushed it off as his basic duty. But honestly, he was totally mind-blown by the massive power-up the kid just unlocked. The main character played it totally cool. But young master, Jaffel urged. Larson glanced over. Yeah? We are literally at the Dragon Peak gates, Jaffel warned. Larson already knew. I sense an insanely heavy aura radiating from deep inside. It is charging straight at us, totally flexing its dominant presence. They are practically screaming a deadly warning. The main character double-checked the threat. Jaffel nodded grimly, guessing that insane magical elixir surge had totally baited them here. Larson was stunned. Was his energy blast really that massive? It definitely did not rival a 7th-tier wizard's absolute peak output. He pressed for an ID on the targets. Jaffel confirmed his worst fears. My gut screams they are blade masters. Their piercing battle aura is unmistakable, and they are closing the gap crazy fast. They will drop right on top of us any second. Larson immediately checked their aggro level. Jaffel hesitated, unsure of their true vibe, but their sword energy is straight up terrifying. The main character frowned. Blade wielders and magic casters were basically sworn enemies in this universe. Why exactly were they rushing them right now? Outrunning them was totally off the table anyway. If his ruthless dad ever caught wind that he cowardly ran from a basic sword squad, he would face the executioner before his 10th birthday bash. Plus, having a literal tier 7 mage on standby meant backing down was ridiculous. If smoke was coming, they would absolutely stand their ground. Boom, contact. A fierce blade warrior materialized out of nowhere, while the interface suddenly blared. Divine vision forced online. Larson's pupils shrunk in pure, unadulterated panic. A giant red alert popped up. Massive timeline deviation detected, threatening the plot. The literal chosen one from another dimension just dropped in, a total prodigy among absolute legends. Dripping with insane plot armor and cheat-level luck, this dude was the textbook definition of an overpowered, unstoppable web novel hero. We are talking about the kind of broken beast whose only life goal is scaling up to casually shatter the entire planet. He was an absolute nightmare, straight from the author's twisted mind. As this terrifying figure stepped up, the glowing system screen dumped his stats. Kasen Sade. The main character mentally panicked, wondering how this timeline got so derailed. Jaffel locked eyes with Kasen, immediately spotting the iconic blue falcon, fiercely stitched over the intruder's pounding heart. This kid matched his own young lord's age. He was none other than the second heir to the legendary Sade Blade dynasty, Kasen Sade, backed by elite guards. The holographic text explained that the absolute top-tier bloodlines, ruling the big 3 factions of this universe, possessed a passive sixth sense, letting them instantly sniff out rival royalty. Think of it like apex predators, naturally sensing another alpha's killing intent through the raw, magical energy, baking inside their souls since day one. Larson's sweat dropped, absolutely certain Kassen's radar had just pinged him. As a legitimate Mighton family successor, Kassen offered a slick bow, claiming a massive shockwave of pure energy dragged him here. The sword prodigy noted the insane, high-born drip radiating from this 9-year-old. The main character played dumb, questioning the energy spike. Kassen smirked, confirming that his personal heavy hitter tracked an absolutely nuclear explosion of fire element right to this exact spot. Even he felt the heat. The main character mentally scrambled. Jaffel had warned him. But was his power-up seriously that loud? Why was everyone freaking out over it? Larson kept up his poker face, acknowledging their arrival. Kassen admitted his burning curiosity, just would not quit. The interface secretly warned that this kid's legendary thirst for answers was his biggest character trait, literally driving his overpowered evolution. The main character casually hinted his cover was blown. Casson shrugged, confessing he was not 100% certain, but the heavy Mighton bloodline aura was unmistakable, and given their tight age gap, he banked on him being the sixth prince. Except, rumors claimed the sixth heir repped water arts, and this guy radiated zero aquatic vibes. So, you are number 5. The main character froze, desperately needing to ghost this overpowered freak immediately. Could he just ride out the fake fifth brother identity? Nah, getting exposed would be fatal. Switching tactics makes him a massive headache, Larson replied. My fifth brother is a total monster with earth magic. Casson's jaw dropped. Wait, you're the 7th young master? Our boy just smirked. Guess I don't match the crazy rumors, huh? Not even close, Casson breathed out. The nearby guards completely froze in absolute terror. Our guy could literally taste their sheer panic. Casually running a hand through his hair, Larson dropped the formalities. We're the exact same age. Let's talk normally. Suddenly, the glowing system interface popped up. Young Casson practically won the genetic lottery. Doting parents, legendary mentors, and the ultimate blueprint for absolute power. But his perfect life had one massive glitch. He had 0 friends his own age. It was a crushing, lonely void no parental love could ever fix. Larson totally saw that coming. I mean, seriously? Who would casually hang out with the terrifying heir to a legendary sword clan? Suddenly, Ludia grabbed his arm. Is this your new best friend? She asked. Our main character smiled inwardly. Only a fearless wildcard like Ludia could actually handle this guy. I'm 9 too, and wow, you're gorgeous, she blurted out. I'm Ludia. Who are you? The swordsman awkwardly mumbled his name. Casson? She tilted her head. Yeah, he whispered softly. Such a cute name and face, she beamed. Casson flushed bright red, awkwardly clearing his throat and turning toward Larson. The young swordsman immediately switched topics. That insane mono wave earlier. What was that? He mentioned scoring a massive lucky break recently. Spot on. Larson grinned, knowing the kid totally took the bait. Casson leaned in. Seriously, what kind of fire attribute is that? It feels entirely new, Larson explained calmly. It's an aura that completely shields me from any dangerous external threats. Like deadly poisons? Casson asked. Exactly, our boy nodded. That's an incredible power, he murmured. Meanwhile, Jaffel lurked in the shadows, silently observing the situation. He realized his squad definitely held the overwhelming combat advantage. One wrong move, and Larson's group would be completely wiped out. Yet here they were, happily gossiping like clueless targets. Suddenly, Ludia poked the deadly blade, gasping in pure awe. A real sword? Can I touch it? Casson was completely baffled. Why wasn't this girl terrified of his overwhelming bloodlust? Honestly, the kid kind of loved the attention. Larson watched them, realizing this random encounter was probably a one-time thing. Once they split up, they'd vanish from each other's lives. So why not leave behind a genuinely awesome, friendly impression? Larson held out his hand. Casson? The swordsman blinked. Yeah? Our main character smiled. I've never met anyone from the Branch family, especially someone exactly my age. Casson firmly gripped his hand back, admitting he had never met an actual peer before either. I heard that in legendary sword families, you gotta clash blades before becoming actual friends, Larson said. What's that intense tradition called again? A duel, Casson answered. Exactly, a duel, Larson hyped up. I really want to try it. Isn't that the ultimate requirement to join your friend group? Casson awkwardly waved his hands. No way, that's not mandatory at all. But Larson cut him off, practically buzzing with hype. Come on, a little sparring sounds epic. Casson's aura violently erupted. Wait, are you challenging me right now? Larson smirked. Exactly. It was the absolute perfect chance to test the massive gap between their current power levels. Jaffel internally freaked out. A death match? In this crazy situation? Even with 2 elite knights acting as shields, Larson's safety was totally compromised right now. Yet, Jaffel absolutely could not intervene for him. According to high society, this reckless kid was an official heir to the mighty Mighton bloodline. Stopping him without solid proof would be absolute career suicide. Plus, stepping in while a rival clan representative watched would totally humiliate the prestigious Mighton name. He just had to bite his tongue. Did you also learn swordsmanship? Casson asked. Nope, Larson shrugged. I only mastered magical combat techniques. Magical combat? Casson remarked. Few people study that nowadays. Turns out, brawling with spells is my only real talent. Larson smirked. Casson frowned in confusion. Then why challenge me? I heard your mage clan absolutely despised us swordsmen. Larson hit him right in the feels. Because you're totally friendless, right? Casson instantly froze stiff, while the nearby guards gasped in absolute shock. Jaffel silently screamed. Why provoke the monster? But Larson just threw his hands up. Guess what? I'm a massive loner too. We're totally in the exact same boat. The swordsman just stared intensely, completely speechless. Larson sighed, explaining that it was the tragic curse of being born into these overpowered aristocratic families. Actually, making true friends in your elite position is much harder. Cassin's voice cracked. Wait, why? Because your clan outright bans it, Larson explained bluntly. Even meeting another noble means a fake friendship built entirely on establishing cold, calculating political business deals. What kind of friendship is that? Cassin asked. Exactly, Larson replied. It absolutely doesn't count as one. That's why you're totally isolated. But hey, maybe your terrifying elders will respect a bond forged in battle. Larson grinned fiercely. That's exactly why I challenged you. Ding! The system interface flashed. The celestial eye was analyzing this entire realm. The chaos, unpredictability assessment is being totally clarified. For sword fanatics, crossing blades is the ultimate method to build unbreakable mutual trust. It's all about raw trust and having each other's backs, Larson declared. Because without total trust, this fight ends with someone getting seriously wrecked, right? Cassin's eyes glowed with realization. You're absolutely right. He clearly understood the warrior's soul. The glowing system window chimed again. It requires massive trust and absolute courage. A weakling challenging an absolute powerhouse? That just proves his blind faith in him. Larson silently agreed. Cassin was a monster, while he was basically glass. Like I mentioned, Larson declared, I'm relying on magical combat arts. Just treat it like martial arts. Cassin unsheathed his blade, the steel singing as his right hand gripped the hilt. I use traditional fencing. I'll stick to the Saad family's fundamental strikes. Noticing Larson's bare hands, Cassin offered a handicap. You get the first 3 hits. Make them count. The main character stared, totally intimidated by that flawless draw. Larson then smirked, asking Cassin to predict the winner. Cassin paused to ponder, but our guy cut right in. Obviously, I'm taking the crown. Then why even challenge me if you're so sure? Cassin fired back. The answer was simple. He just wanted a genuine friendship. Larson tilted his head. Does winning even matter right now? Cassin shook his head. Not really. Frowning, the main character confessed that securing a victory wasn't the goal. Challenging him was purely a fast track to becoming real bros. We're the same age. Friends stand on equal ground. Treat me like one. Cassin immediately softened, apologizing for any accidental disrespect. The main character brushed it off. Larson promised to go all out, demanding Cassin bring his absolute best too. Watching closely, Jaffel held his breath. The ultimate clash between the 7th young master and the Sade family's 2nd son was kicking off. Boom! Cassin exploded forward with a lethal strike. Instantly, a glowing system window popped up. Slow flow attribute automatically triggered. Absolute nightmare fuel, Larson panicked. Mid-conversation, that deadly blade had already materialized inches from his throat. Ding! The system chimed again. Basic magical combat art. Weight control successfully engaged. The main character leaped back. Perfect. His balance was fully restored. One solid dash could seal the win. He charged, but Cassin swiftly evaded, countering with a terrifyingly heavy thrust. The steel grazed Larson. His mind raced. How was he dodging at warp speed? He desperately needed point-blank range to unleash his magical arts. Cassin relentlessly zoned him out. Closing the gap meant stepping right into an unavoidable, fatal sword strike. Yet hanging back meant getting sliced to ribbons anyway. Typical overpowered protagonist energy, victory suddenly felt like an impossible pipe dream. But wait, a glimmer of hope sparked. His overpowered attribute was mapping out every single slash trajectory in real time. One perfect dodge meant closing that gap. Cassin unleashed a vicious sweep, which the main character totally read as fake bait. A brutal stab was definitely next. Wait, no. The attack morphed instantly because Larson froze. Cassin made the strike absolutely lethal. Dodging was impossible now. He just had to tank it. Ding! Elementary magic art. Advanced steel will activated. Cassin's heavy blade slammed brutally right into the main character. Agony ripped from his throat as he gripped his screaming arm. Taking the blow to his limb was way better than getting gutted. That sheer impact completely scrambled his mana circuits. Cassin leveled the cold steel at Larson's nose, announcing his absolute defeat. Jaffel blinked in pure shock. It was over? Well, at least nobody died today. Cassin calmly sheathed his lethal weapon. Is your arm intact? Cassin asked. The main character nodded, groaning that it felt like taking a sledgehammer hit. His nerves were entirely fried. Your defense was absolutely insane, Cassin praised. Larson sighed. Yeah, but the strike still cracked my shield. Seriously, it was legendary, Cassin insisted. Those sudden sparks completely caught me off guard. Larson froze. Sparks? What on earth was he babbling about? Glancing sideways, Larson wondered if Ludia secretly rigged the fight. Amidst the chaotic adrenaline rush, he totally missed it. Casson raised his blade. This weapon is a true masterwork. Larson gasped, completely stunned. Casson casually mentioned it slices solid steel. The main character's face lost all color. Panic flooded his mind. He literally tanked that with his bare arm. Casson quickly clarified he deliberately held back the cutting edge. Still, surviving that took god-tier resilience. I'm amazed. Larson breathed out a shaky thanks. Defeat was practically guaranteed against such a ridiculous power gap. Casson reached out, pulling the main character up. He admitted most people were terrified to approach him. Larson chuckled. Makes sense. Compared to a beast like you, everyone else is basically glass. Weaklings naturally fear the apex predators. Then aren't you a complete weirdo? Casson joked. The main character smiled, claiming absolute trust. Casson's eyes lit up, thrilled by this unique vibe. Meeting you was genuinely awesome, Larson Mayton. Until next time. With a dramatic spin, he vanished alongside his royal escort. Suddenly, a glowing interface hijacked his vision. Warning, an unpredictable anomaly has just actively rewritten the timeline's history, Larson groaned. Another timeline disruption? Jaffel cautiously interrupted. Seventh young master. Forgive my absolute insolence, but may I dare ask a question? The main character casually gave him the green light. Jaffel dropped the bomb. When did you master fire magic? Larson blanked. Fire magic? But then, Casson's words about sparks echoed in his mind. Wait a second. He focused inward, sensing a faint, blazing aura flickering right beside his heart. A tiny, yet undeniable spark of pure flame, blazing fire mana coursed through him. He desperately needed to analyze this sudden celestial eye awakening. Replaying the fierce showdown against Casson, a glowing system window popped up. The notification revealed the pure firewater flower's essence had perfectly merged with his innate flame attribute. His basic cultivation perfectly fused them. Larson's eyes widened. It all finally made sense. It wasn't just a simple mystical herb. Absorbing that impossibly rare flower literally granted him total mastery over pure elemental energy. Wait, wasn't infusing raw elements into combat magic totally impossible? Even if someone miraculously pulled it off, they'd need to be a grandmaster or a freak of nature like his third sister. Plus, the actual damage output would normally suck, making it completely useless in real fights. Dumbfounded, Jaffel demanded to know his secret. The protagonist shrugged, playing clueless. Jaffel stared in pure disbelief. No way he doesn't know. He's definitely hiding the truth and purposely keeping me in the dark. This was basically a polite way to say, back off. Everything perfectly followed his grand scheme. Wait, does this mean bumping into Casson Sade was totally calculated too? If he's hiding these master plans from his guard, he must be secretly working with heavyweights, like the third young lady or higher. I must be extra careful around this guy. Jaffel offered to escort him straight back home. The protagonist casually agreed. Suddenly, Ludia snapped, demanding he take it back. Utterly confused, he blinked and asked what she meant. She furiously threatened to roast him alive if he didn't apologize. Larson pushed further, totally lost. Hold on, is she throwing a massive tantrum? Just because he joked about having 0 friends earlier? Erupting in scorching red mana, Ludia shrieked that she honestly thought they were besties. That unbreakable bond was the exact reason she signed the contract. He deadpanned internally. Wow, friendship is serious business for a 9-year-old. He quickly reassured her they were totally tight. Still fuming, she demanded to know why he claimed he was a loner. Sweating slightly, Larson scrambled, promising to take it all back. Ludia pressed him, asking if he really meant it. He swore he misspoke, practically begging for her forgiveness. Ludia smiled brightly, warning him not to lie again. Larson swore they were true comrades. Beaming with absolute joy, she happily cheered. Awesome, that settles it. Grabbing his arm, she fiercely ordered him to never forget their sacred friendship again. Jaffel watched silently from the sidelines. The main character agreed without hesitation. Feeling generous, the little firecracker decided to let him off the hook, but only because it was his very first offense. Later, a mocking voice echoed, "That absolute clown just wanted some chocolate before retreating." His lackey snickered, mocking his pathetic string of bad luck. The shadowy figure threw his hands wide open, asking why the mighty patriarch hasn't eliminated the trash yet. His crony firmly agreed, finding the family head's mercy incredibly suspicious. The man smirked viciously, noting there were countless ways to orchestrate a flawless, fatal accident. Jaffel couldn't shake his deep suspicions. Exiling the kid while deliberately keeping him alive? This entire situation reeks of hidden agendas. Recalling the boy's chilling confidence, he realized the kid wasn't bluffing. Fast forward to midnight, January 1st, 2019. A massive feast of luxurious dishes covered their cozy dining table. Soso shared a warm, grateful exchange with Hera. Suddenly, a flashing system prompt revealed. Hera had a terrifying, monstrous talent for assassination. Larson panicked, wondering why his broken skill activated autonomously. Trying to stay cool, he asked, what was the patriarch actually like? The boy's mind was completely blank, having never even met the terrifying man. A primal, unexplainable dread washed over him at the very thought of his father. It felt like the original Larson intentionally purged those traumatic memories. Soso murmured, he was a profoundly lonely soul. Studying her expression, a glowing system notification dropped a massive lore bomb. Decatra, the terrifying head of the Maiden family, was totally obsessed. This humble maid was his one and only true love. Shock rocked the protagonist's core. He actually loves mom? Suddenly, a booming voice echoed, did you say lonely? Suffocating mana flooded the room. A blinding flash of pure energy ripped through the room, revealing Decatra himself. The boy's eyes bulged in absolute terror. Soso instantly stood, bowing to the supreme ruler. He coldly warned her to watch her bold tongue. Trembling, mother and son paid their absolute respects. Sneaking a glance, the kid was mind-blown. One single man had literally turned the atmosphere into crushing lead. How can a human possess such a devastating aura? His lungs violently protested, begging for air. Every survival instinct screamed at him to run away. Decatra casually claimed a seat and dropped a chilling, hey, the boy answered respectfully. Decatra mentioned hearing about a terrible incident between him and his sibling. Larson locked eyes with him, confirming the brutal clash with his sixth brother. This ruthless man doesn't care about family drama, so why even ask? Since this terrifying villain was literally his own creation, he needed to act perfectly. Decatra demanded his reasoning. The protagonist instantly realized this was a deadly psychological test. I must seize absolute control of the narrative. He boldly confessed he used bare fists instead of magic to discipline the brat. Decatra leaned in, asking if that justified his shocking retaliation. Larson stood firm, claiming his brother's pathetic actions dragged a true mage's honor through the dirt. It was an unforgivable insult. The fool threw punches, so Larson countered with raw mana. Decatra pierced his soul, asking if he felt justified. He confidently declared he was absolutely right. He simply wanted to completely crush their senseless fight. Decatra instantly demanded to know why he was acting so out of line. Our main character casually fired back, claiming his attitude was perfectly normal for a mage. Since his injuries weren't life-threatening, he relied on magical combat arts that perfectly mirrored physical brawling. It was all just a brutal wake-up call for his sixth brother. After all, this bloody succession war wasn't just about mindlessly slaughtering your own flesh and blood. He passionately yelled, they weren't the real enemies. Completely unlike the rival Grandel martial artists or the Sade sword clan. The real goal? Making those rival families bow down, lick the dirt like absolute dogs, and crawl like insects. Decatra smirked, admitting he loved that savage mindset. Larson brushed it off, stating his older sibling should be thanking him. He just delivered a harsh, much-needed masterclass on real battlefield survival, a total leech from a martial arts bloodline. Honestly, Decatra never expected an ounce of greatness from either his sixth or seventh sons. But side by side, the seventh son was wildly superior. Our guy boldly declared that if his brother was still holding on to petty grudges over that minor beatdown, he didn't deserve the maiden name. The room went dead silent. He swallowed hard, mentally panicking. Did his crazy bluff actually work? Honestly, his hands were still violently shaking. Suddenly, the glowing system window revealed a massive secret. Decatra's one and only love was Soso, and that burning passion never faded. Checking the loyalty stats made everything click. Larson Maiden only survived until age 17 purely because of his mother. The pieces finally aligned in his head. Realistically speaking, a total pushover, like the original Larson, would have been slaughtered way earlier in this brutal family. Even though the original novel skipped these details, this entire world still strictly followed its core storyline. And according to that fateful plot, Soso was destined to tragically die in just 2 years from the blue dot disease. Once she passed away, the old Larson lost his absolute ultimate shield. Decatra intentionally exiled Soso away to the rundown Badger estate, completely acting like she didn't exist anymore. Why? Because the old Larson was a pathetic weakling, utterly incapable of defending his mom or backing up his ruthless dad. Decatra coldly calculated this whole setup. It was a twisted way to keep his precious beloved off the radar. The other vicious wives already suspected his deep obsession with Soso. Suddenly, a massive epiphany hit him like a truck. If he just levels up and becomes strong enough to protect her, he could rewrite their tragic fate. Decatra secretly craved his growth too. Staring his terrifying father down, he swore he'd push past his absolute limits. Just like he mentioned, those hybrid magical combat arts had serious bottlenecks. Decatra bluntly pointed out they were painfully weak and barely developed. Our hero fired back that fighting with a flawed style totally beats rolling over and dying. Decatra coldly countered that hard work cannot always shatter an impossible ceiling. Unfazed, He confidently replied he wasn't gunning for the Patriarch's bloody throne anyway. He was fully self-aware that he lacked the monstrous talent for it. But becoming the ultimate right-hand man, that was within reach. His magical potential might be capped, but his sheer human willpower was absolutely limitless. He boldly reminded the Patriarch that the fierce Maiton blood fueled his veins. He vowed to grow untouchable and perfectly shield his mother from the shadows. Soso gasped in pure shock, while Decatra silently processed this massive character development. Flash forward, Larson suddenly received a highly classified letter, sealed by Decatra himself. The heavy parchment commanded his immediate presence at the grand banquet hall inside the towering main estate. Scanning the brief text, he immediately suspected a trap. The message was way too vague to be a normal family invitation. The legendary Maiton clan tradition was finally kicking off. The highly anticipated 10th anniversary awakening ceremony was officially locked in. This massive milestone drops whenever a bloodline member hits double digits. It is supposedly a lavish, joyful gathering for the entire noble family to celebrate. Sure, there is fancy food, but the real prize? Unlocking their game-changing physical enhancement magic for the very first time. This was not some basic strength buff. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to awaken a devastating elemental core or raw mana affinity from the sacred 7 branches: water, raging fire, unbreakable metal, fierce lightning, holy light, solid earth, or pure darkness. Showtime arrived. Slipping into his sleek evening suit, he stared in the mirror, realizing how wildly he had evolved since hijacking this vessel. His muscles were sharper, and his mindset was absolute steel. Striding down the lavish corridors with his maid, he headed straight for the Grand Awakening event. Pushing open the massive banquet doors, he spotted a ridiculous dining table glowing with infinite ambient magic. Honestly, he mentally scoffed at such a massive, flashy waste of gold. He casually asked for his seat assignment. The maid nervously pointed out his chair placed at the absolute furthest, opposite end from the terrifying Patriarch. Frowning, he demanded to know where his mother was. The maid flinched, whispering that she had been completely blacklisted from the guest list. He clicked his tongue, muttering that he fully expected this toxic disrespect. Suddenly, Carlton's raging, furious voice echoed as he stormed into the room. Aiming his magical staff right at Larson, Carlton screamed, "Is that really him?" Our boy just flashed a totally calm smile, asking if his wounds had finally healed. Carlton fiercely ground his teeth together, his veins popping. Who did this absolute loser think he was? This former punching bag had leveled up way too fast. Maintaining his icy smirk, Larson taunted that if Carlton blamed his humiliating defeat on a simple distraction, he was free to demand a brutal rematch instantly. But fair warning this time, the beatdown would be absolutely devastating. His power levels had surged insanely since their last clash. Carlton aggressively bumped past his shoulder, hissing a violent promise to crush him into dust. Larson chuckled darkly, daring him to bring it on. Mentally, he noted that raw hatred was honestly way easier to manage than fear. Suddenly, Persia dramatically entered the chat. Flashing a wicked smirk, she purred, teasing her adorable little brother for arriving so early. Did he enjoy playing with stolen toys? He smoothly replied that playing with fire was an absolute blast. Rolling her eyes, she groaned that this was exactly why she planned on snatching it herself. Larson fired back that gamblers must embrace defeat. Hearing this, Carlton's jaw practically hit the floor. His ruthless third sister lost a wager to this absolute deadbeat? The math just wasn't mathing. The grand doors swung open, revealing their second sister, making our main character freeze. Enter Ivelia Maiton, the legendary sorceress of the end. He knew this monstrous mage was basically a lock for the Patriarch's throne. Despite her chillingly quiet vibe, she'd burn the world for their family's glory. Flexing 7th circle mastery like his third sister, she wielded blinding light magic, paired with suffocating darkness. Ironically, Casson eventually chopped her head off, a wild twist considering she was his childhood crush. Gliding into the chair beside Persia, Ivelia noted that their baby brother had undergone a massive glow-up. Larson played it cool, accepting the praise, while internally having a massive panic attack over this suffocating tension. Staring down Persia and Ivelia, reality slapped him hard. Slacking off like an NPC was no longer an option. These monsters possessed such absurd power that catching up seemed practically suicidal. He had been slacking way too hard. Finally, the elite squad gathered. Taking the throne opposite Larson, the Patriarch scanned his bloodline. Decatra boasted 3 wives, and including his mysterious firstborn, he fathered 6 heirs in total. With 10 heavy hitters present, Decatra announced that his youngest son had officially turned 10. The warlord offered a rare congratulations. The room echoed with forced applause, prompting Larson to stutter out a nervous thanks. Rising elegantly, Ivelia reported that she had successfully completed her father's mission, totally wiping out a horde of demonic beasts. Hellish balrogs had spawned from the chaotic abyss. Our main character gulped, realizing this wasn't some cute family dinner, but a hardcore flex battle where these freaks showcased their bloody achievements. Next up was Scion. He bragged about hunting down Karen, the North's infamous necromancer, sealing him alive inside a cursed coffin. He also slaughtered 20 of the necromancer's rabid cultists. Hearing this carnage, Decatra demanded the casualty report. Discovering Saran solo cleared the dungeon, the patriarch beamed with pride. Then, Persia stepped up, casually mentioning she looted Sylvia's legendary wings from a forgotten sanctuary. Larson instantly stiffened. Peering into her gaze, he caught a chilling, psychotic spark dancing in her eyes. A sudden system alert confirmed his fears. Persia had ruthlessly swiped Sylvia's wings, the divine relic guarding that ancient shrine. This mythical item was a total game-changer, insanely boosting the elemental mastery of any wind attribute mage. She butchered 7 holy monks and shredded their 17 elite knight protectors. Smirking, Decatra noted that this massacre sent a perfect message. He questioned the Holy Empire's backlash. Persia shrugged, revealing those religious zealots had kept their mouths completely shut so far, but a holy crusade was definitely brewing. Decatra scoffed, claiming the church could only beg for apologies, which he planned to blatantly ignore. As Persia swaggered back, our main character realized this was pure, unadulterated villain energy. A church official had crossed the Mighton bloodline, so Decatra dropped the hammer, turning them into a gruesome warning. Even the Pope wouldn't risk all-out war with their insane family. Suddenly, knocking echoed, and Senkin, the patriarch's lethal right hand, stepped into the tension-filled room, presenting a silver platter loaded with mystical scrolls right beside Larson. Decatra ordered the boy to make his choice. Scanning the loot, the boy recognized them as top-tier physical enhancement spellbooks, artifacts personally forged under Decatra's brutal supervision. Instantly, the system pinged, forcefully activating his overpowered celestial eye skill. Magical pathways ignited before him, revealing the 7 scrolls mana bleeding together to forge a hidden, phantom 8th option. Grabbing the invisible prize, he left everyone totally stunned. The kid literally sniped the ultra-rare, exalted attribute effortlessly. Larson confidently locked in his selection. Deafening silence choked the banquet hall. Slowly, the terrifying patriarch shifted his gaze toward Avelia, demanding to know if she leaked the cheat code. She firmly denied it, while the rest of the siblings mirrored her total confusion. He growled, questioning how a literal 10-year-old flawlessly decoded complex mana streams, a galaxy-brain feat even the prodigy Avelia failed at back then. Shrugging it off, she admitted the kid's magical perception completely outclassed her childhood self. Persia threw Larson a highly intrigued smirk. She never expected this supposed trash-tier sibling to pull off such a masterclass. Avelia theorized his body was biologically hardwired for brutal combat magic, explaining his freakishly rapid power-scaling potential. Still reeling, their father demanded confirmation. A newly minted 10-year-old was genuinely flexing this kind of insane talent? She nodded, declaring it the absolute truth. Literally 0 members of their elite squad grasped combat magic that early. Intrigued, Decatra commanded Larson to hand over the legendary Exalted Scroll. The boy rose from his chair. A final system prompt confirmed the lore. Mighton heirs always face the 7-scroll trial on their 10th birthday. Whichever they select instantly grants them the overwhelming physical enhancement magic locked inside. Crimson embodies blazing fire, azure flows as water, silver forged as metal, earthen brown, and golden lightning, pitch black for shadows, blinding white for light. Fusing these 7 elemental forces unlocks true, materialized magical mastery. This forms the exalted attribute, commanding every element. The main character eyed the ancient scroll, assuming it was just a chaotic elemental mashup. Wielding every power sounds incredibly risky, yet he boldly offered the scroll to his intimidating father. "Didn't expect you to pick this one," his father scoffed. "I'll take that as a massive compliment," he fired back. Carlton gritted his teeth, seething. How dare he mouth off to the patriarch? Has he lost his mind? He really should have kept his mouth shut. Decatra coldly announced that Avelia would perform his physical enhancement ritual. Larson blinked, totally caught off guard by this twist. Didn't the patriarch promise to do it himself? His father warned that a personal casting carried a 99% fatality rate. He would gladly cast it if death was the goal. The main character frowned at this sudden bombshell. "And if Avelia steps in?" he challenged. "Your Grim Reaper odds drop to 50%, his father smirked. Her mana flowed much smoother than his destructive aura. A cold sweat broke out. Did he totally mess up by locking in the overpowered Exalted Attribute scroll? But he instantly crushed that doubt. No regrets. He was absolutely built for greatness. Playing it safe gets you killed in this brutal reality. He shoved the scroll toward Avelia with burning resolve. "My life is literally in your hands now. You actually trust me?" she questioned. "I trust your insane magical skills," he replied smoothly. She scoffed, calling their father way too optimistic. In reality, Surviving this ritual was a brutal, long shot. The Exalted attribute packs devastatingly heavy mana. Combined with physical enhancement magic, it is a pure recipe for bodily destruction. Give it to me straight. What are my survival odds? 50%, max. And if you literally give it your all? He pressed. Still a coin toss, she deadpanned. Are you secretly begging me to swap this for a basic elemental scroll? He teased back. Slapping the scroll onto the stone floor, she declared, true mages never force their will onto another's destiny, but I do want you to become an absolute beast. Stunned, he paused before boldly swearing he would never back down. She commanded him to strip down, peeling off his shirt. His unexpectedly shredded physique left everyone speechless, especially a wide-eyed Persia. He flashed a cocky smirk. Who would believe this jacked physique belonged to a 10-year-old? His insane glow-up took barely a month. Avelia analyzed him. How did he decipher the Exalted Scroll? Why was he so hyped? What dark secrets was this kid hiding? Nice face, insane build, she openly mocked. You are basically crafted to be a pretty little trophy. That weird flex made Larson sweat. Avelia shoved him flat onto his back, pressing her glowing hand firmly against his chest. Initiating the ritual now, she warned their father, secretly thrilled to test drive such high-tier physical enhancement magic. Hold up, the main character shouted. Getting cold feet? She taunted. I don't even know what fear is, he clapped back. He just needed one final word with the patriarch. The room gasped at his audacity as Decatra glared, demanding his final piece. Grant me one favor if I cheat death. His siblings scoffed at the massive ego. While Carlton mentally branded him a total fool, Larson pointed out the broken Mighton family tradition. The patriarch was supposed to cast this enhancement spell personally, not pawn it off. Even with Evelia's elite skills, she couldn't match their father's raw power. Because of this downgrade, he demanded absolute compensation. Carlton smiled wickedly, praying their father would execute him for such blatant disrespect. Name your price, Decatra growled dangerously. The main character demanded full palace access for his exiled mother. Instantly, the patriarch's other wives panicked, their faces turning pale. That useless trash doesn't belong here, one wife shrieked. Larson's eyes turned lethal. Care to explain why my mother is trash? She scoffed that a low-born peasant lacked their noble status. Ice in his veins, Larson reminded her he was the patriarch's legitimate heir. Half his veins pumped his mother's blood. Trashing her didn't just disrespect him, it was a direct spit in the mighty patriarch's face. Because his bloodline is Decatra's legacy. The arrogant woman snapped her mouth shut in sheer terror, while Decatra questioned his son's motive. Because my mother simply yearns to see her son. A flicker of genuine shock and unexpected softness crossed the ruthless patriarch's face. The main character knew painting a massive target on his back for those three witches was a risky, yet completely calculated power move. Securing the absolute backing of his overpowered father easily trumped dealing with three petty stepmothers. His mother remained Decatra's sole hidden weakness. Bold words, brat, Decatra declared. But fine. Survive this hellish trial, and your wish is absolutely granted. The wives gasped in pure horror. Avelia just locked eyes with Larson. You better not die on me, kid. His lips curled into a fierce, confident grin. He absolutely would not fail. This deadly trial was just the prologue of his epic legend. Brace yourself. Here it comes, Avelia whispered. Ancient, crackling mana surged around them as the spell ignited. Unimaginable agony ripped through the main character. A searing, brand-like inferno consumed his entire body before a blinding white explosion swallowed his vision completely. Plunged into an absolute void of pitch blackness, a mysterious voice echoed through the shadows, promising him ultimate salvation. Larson scanned the abyss, realizing his arms and legs existed, yet felt utterly paralyzed. Dread crept in. This chilling numbness mirrored a hospital's heavy anesthesia. Just as panic washed over him, a blinding orb of light suddenly ignited ahead. A literal talking orb. Startled by its sudden greeting, our main character instinctively stumbled backward, eyes locked on the glowing anomaly. Could this be the Holy Grail of fire? The entity instantly shot back, questioning Larson's own identity. Baffled, Larson countered, demanding if it was the legendary Grail. He swore he just absorbed a massive physical enhancement spell. Where am I? And why is the Grail here? The glowing orb flared with sheer annoyance, bluntly declaring he was dead wrong. It fiercely rejected the fire title. Instead, it claimed its legendary moniker, the Holy Grail of Ascension. Our main character stood utterly speechless. Larson activated his celestial eye to scan the entity, but the skill completely failed. The Grail scoffed, blaming the Fire Clan's absolutely foolish misunderstanding. Some guy named Curdle had forcefully injected him with fire mana. The orb's flames raged with disgust, snapping that Curdle's identity didn't matter at all. Curdle was merely some legendary, mythical archmage. Hearing that grand title, the puzzle pieces instantly clicked inside Larson's mind. Unlike the great monk Alberto, who was practically a self-proclaimed fairy tale, countless followers actually swore the legendary Curdle truly existed. Surprisingly, the divine relic called him brother and offered its epic support. Larson blinked, completely confused by this weirdly casual bro-zoning. When Larson questioned its methods, the ancient artifact dropped a massive bombshell. His physical vessel was actually insanely unique. Back in ancient times, such overpowered frames were crowned as celestial vessels. His raw physical durability was absolutely unmatched. Yet, even that couldn't handle the massive mana he craved, since his ring was already maxed out. What did he expect absorbing such catastrophic energy would do?